Greetings. Welcome, everybody. Yes, it is time for a brand new edition live of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of The Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. The potato. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's vaguely ethnic potato. Hello. Oh, how are you doing? There's some very important potato news that's going to be part of the show today, as well as all the other amazing things that we do. Oh, they're joining us. Let me get the music playing, and then I'll tell you all about this fabulous program that we have for you today called Dave's Gone By. Dave's Gone By!
Good morning! Good morning! Good morning!
There goes the Daverhood!
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night! Like two flamingos in a fruit fight!
Well, there goes the day. Good morning, everybody. Happy September to you, September 1st, 2018. Welcome to, before I lose their names already, Annette and Jackie and Pookie. Welcome to Pookie and Tony, of course, and David and Peggy and
The
Raymond.
chocolate diva.
Peggy says, yes, or good morning, I am here. Oh, you are the chocolate diva. And how did your concert go? I know you were doing a concert about 2 weeks ago, which meant that you couldn't tune into the show. I was very, very sad and upset about that.
Honey, you're the potato divo.
I am indeed. I'm the...
Here, you want to hear?
The petivo.
Knock him over.
Really? You want to take him off my
jump,
head?
Potato, jump. Jump.
Ready? Here we go. Ah! Thank you. Yeah, that's make me look even bolder than I am.
That's very striking.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Uncle
like
Floyd
a
used to have... What? Yeah? No, Uncle Floyd used to have a character named Chuck Little Hat.
No.
But it was not him. It was Scott Gordon.
Oh, yes.
Who had the, I think.
Of course.
It was a long time ago.
Of course.
Anyway, welcome everybody to the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of The Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and incredibly talented photographer wife, Joyce. If you checked our Facebook page yesterday, some kind of cool news. We submitted a photograph that she took a few weeks ago at Glenmere Park, which is near where we live, and we submitted it to the quote-unquote Best of Greeley magazine. And it's up there in contention with two other photographs.
One's an owl, damn it.
I know. Joyce loves owls. She's got a couple of owls in her office, like little crocheted owls.
Oh.
So we really want her to win. There's three photographs. One of them is hers, and there are all these lily pads and kind of, what do you call those plants that lie on water?
Plants that lie on water.
Plants that lie on water. It's a beautiful, she
Tell
caught
them
the
the
light.
name and what it means. You talk it up.
Okay, well, the title of it is, is it you or me?
Take what the water gave me.
Take What the Water Gave Me, which most people would assume was something from the Florence and the Machine song, but Florence and the Machine actually took it from a Frida Kahlo quarter painting. From a painting that she did of she's looking in the water at all these horrible tragedies that happened in her life, and it's there's the dead kid, and there's the marriage to what's his name, and then all the horse accident, whatever, the trolley.
No, volcano and all sorts of stuff.
Why did she get hurt by a volcano?
No, it's just symbolic. It's Boschian. It's like Hieronymus Bosch, who's one of my faves.
Now Bosch, Frida was okay, but I like Bosch.
She took for Bosch to her.
But anyway, Take What the Water Gave Me. So it's this beautiful photograph that Joyce took. That's one of the photos, and you can go vote for it by emailing Joyce at thebestofgreeley.com. Joyce at thebestofgreeley.com. Now, she's up against this other photograph of when we had hail here about 3 weeks ago, the second round of hail, and it literally was bigger than a ping pong ball. It was like a monster hail. It damaged every roof in Greeley. So it was just basically a picture of a hand with the hail ball on it, just to show how big it was. It was like kind of this wrinkly, sort of interesting, pruny, wet hand Whoop-de-doo. It doesn't have a shot. I'm sorry.
I might win.
That is not going to win.
Listen, and they put the owl first, which means it's going to win, because the photo they put first is always the winner.
Well, that first photo, I've got to say, is very good.
I took mine with my cell phone.
True.
That lady probably had $1 billion camera.
But she found a little owl in the nook of a tree, and you can see the owl peeping out. It's a nice photo, and owls are friggin' cute. So I'm worried that damned owl photo is going to win. If you don't want the owl photo to win, please vote for Joyce's. By the way, before I lose her, Peggy...
No, she's doing a Chocolate Diva Gets Romantic. Her show, she said her show went very well, but she's doing a new one, Chocolate Diva Gets Romantic.
Oh, she wants to tour it.
Yeah,
just like Rabbi Sol does with his show. So absolutely best of luck,
Maybe she could team up with Rabbi Sol and they could do she could do opening act one time, you could be opening act the next time.
Yeah.
And it could be called Rabbi Sol Gets Unromantic.
Yeah, because quite honestly, I mean, you know my temperament, but Rabbi Sol, I mean, he's going to be dealing with someone who is
There's nothing romantic.
African American, I think, and B, sight impaired. So invariably he'll say something within the first 5 minutes she'll kill him.
Also, Rabbi Sol is very unromantic, so...
Oh, yeah, there's nothing...
Yeah.
Well, he has 21 and a half children.
Yeah, but that's just perfunctory. That's functional. He has to do it.
I think he finds it more than perfunctory. He finds it perfun, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, he perfuncts her once a night, if you know what I'm saying. Ow, ow, don't hurt me, ow. Welcome to Adam and Steve. Oh, Steve, of course Steve is watching. Steve is the fellow who kindly lined up our guest in the Daverhood later in the program, plus Drew and Bruce and Laura.
Wait,
and
honey.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to get... We don't have... Wait.
What do we need?
Wait.
We need...
That's the closest I can get to shark music.
Oh,
Wait.
that is...
Okay, ready?
Do it. Wait.
Do the look.
Here, wait.
Wait, okay, you can be the person, I'll be the shark. Get him a little higher.
Oh, he'll be
get
the
him a little
person?
higher. Yeah, get him a little higher.
Swimming. We got ketchup, we can do blood. You know what movie we're talking about. We're talking about one of the most popular and effective and fun movies of the past, 40-something years now.
And I saw where it was made in Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the shark pool. I saw the Jaws. I saw him. The machine.
Yeah. And I mean, it has spawned sequels. There was I never saw it, but there was a comedy sort of porn or light porn movie with Brother Theodore in it called Gum.
God.
Called Gums. Well, no, he was just comic relief, apparently.
He was. I hope he wasn't like the...
No, he wasn't.
No, okay.
No. But it was called Gums, as I recall.
Was Babushka the love interest?
Oh. No, not Little Theodore, Brother Theodore.
Oh,
very different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very different
That's what I'm thinking
people there.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I also wish I had Brother Theodore on back when. Well, now we started the show too late for that to happen. But no, and of course Sharknado. There wouldn't be a Sharknado without Jaws. So Jaws, of course.
Shark Week.
Shark Week, yeah, all of that. Well, Jaws wouldn't exist the way we know it, obviously without director Steven Spielberg and the cast.
Who?
A Jewish guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, that screenplay, co-written by a fella who also co-wrote with Steve Martin and Carl Reiner,
What?
I think there's one other author too, The Jerk.
Whoa.
The movie that started off Steve Martin's career.
Big time, yeah.
And it's still a very, very funny movie. It's one of the best movies that Steve Martin did. Co-written by this man. He also co-wrote, this wasn't a hit, but he wrote a movie for Richard Pryor. He adapted the Lena Wertmuller film, The Seduction of Mimi, into an Americanized version of it. And it was called Which Way's Up? That one's kind of forgotten. It's probably worth a look on VHS or DVD.
Or Google it, yeah.
And he's also written, let me get my notes. I forgot to get my notes.
I'll get them.
They're in my computer bag, please.
Oh, God.
They're folded up. There's a little white paper in there. Yay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because he also wrote for TV. He wrote, like All in the Family episodes and Odd Couple episodes. The person I'm talking about, his name is Carl Gottlieb. Carl Gottlieb, as in Carl, you got love? Yeah. So, he's an Emmy winner. He also wrote some of the Jaws sequels. That's right. He also directed a cute little comedy called Caveman, featuring Ringo Starr and his girlfriend or wife, Barbara Bach, if you remember that one.
God.
Yes. So Carl Gottlieb is going to be our guest in the Daverhood, talking to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon later in the program. So, of course, we'll talk about Jaws. So, of course, we'll talk about Spielberg and Richard Pryor and Steve Martin.
Is he working on stuff now? Like, what's his new gig?
Yeah, he's adapting a true story into a screenplay. I think Rabbi Sol will ask him about that, too. He wrote for Bob Newhart. He wrote for...
Did he like Jaws when he wrote it? I wonder.
How do you mean?
Like, sometimes we write stuff and then we're like, I wonder, like, what he felt about it.
That's a good
question. Did he feel like that would be his biggest hit, or did he feel Richard Pryor or some of the other ones would have been bigger? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, nobody had any clue that Jaws was going to be big. They thought it was going to be this in and out in 2 weeks, B-level, cheapy, sort of horror-ish.
What do you think was the reason for Jaws' success?
There was genius in it. It's a great movie.
Probably Man Against, like, it's like a Moby Dick.
Yeah.
You know, Man Against the Sea.
Yeah. And it's the tension that Steven Spielberg ratchets up. It's the camaraderie among the men. It's Dreyfuss. It's the other guy was also a playwright.
I'm bad with
He wrote The Man in the Glass Booth. The other actor in there. Somebody help me out with that.
My Uncle Fred.
Could have been your Uncle Fred. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. Well, anyway. Right, it caught the moment, and it was 12 notches above your usual exploitation, cheapy grindhouse, flick. It went, and,
And thanks to them, that little place on Universal Studios, they used to film my Angela Lansbury opening. Thank you, Jaws people. You gave and you gave of yourself. Thank you, Jaws people.
My wife, the Murder, She Wrote fanatic.
I love the Jaws people.
Yeah. And Angela, who's 91 years old and still...
Yeah, God bless her.
God bless her. Yeah. So, what else are we doing on this TV... I called it a TV program because I'm looking at... It is!
You're looking at yourself.
It's essentially a TV show.
You want to mention your shirt?
Well, this is exciting. This is incredible, folks. We're going to have an edition, of course, today of Potato News because I'm kind of forced to with all these potatoes around. But, Well,
you have the potato in the sky watching.
We'll show him.
Yeah.
He's kind of making sure everything goes all right.
Yeah, he gets mad. Wrong way. Yeah, there you go. Oh, good, nice. He gets mad. Don't poke him.
I won't poke him. I'm not going to poke him.
He gets mad.
Just saying that next week, alas, we won't be here next Saturday because Saturday, September 8th, in Greeley, Colorado.
David, I'll take a lot of pictures, though.
Better.
Can I upload my pictures from my phone and then we save? Then I'll have more space on my phone. I'll clean them out.
Yeah, clean them out. Yeah. And maybe we'll take some video, too. If I can maybe get an interview there or something. Because next Saturday, September 8th...
You're too excited for a video. You usually pee.
I'm going to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Potato Day. Greeley, every year, for a few decades now, early in September, has... Potato Day.
That would be Pepito Day.
Showing actual... You can pull them off the wall and bring them back. Hi! This is a potato. Hi! As if you didn't know.
You have the King Knish behind you, Grandpa.
Oh, the Grand Knish. He will make an appearance, as he usually does. I'm sorry about my arm there.
Where's his crown?
His crown. Somebody else is wearing his crown. You can grab one from the folks in the basket. Yeah.
Is it this? I don't think it's this. I think somebody else has.
Well, he's got the other crown, but he can wear this one. He looks pretty cute in here.
Okay.
Loyal subjects. So
it's on his eye. Okay, that's not.
Well, he has so many eyes. It's kind of hard not to get him on an eye. But the Grand Knish will be making a beautiful appearance.
I see he's been exercising with his track shoes for the event, huh?
Oh yeah.
He's all swelt.
He's more swollen.
He's swelled. Yeah.
So we go every year, of course, to Potato Day. This was the beautiful thing.
Well, they have pictures in your album. They could just look at past Potato Days.
But, we were, obviously, Joyce and I were both from New York. Lived in Queens.
Where native New York is.
Brooklyn, Queens,
I'm born in
Long
Brooklyn,
Island.
lived in Queens, lived in Manhattan, lived every borough. Lived in Brooklyn, except I didn't live in I lived in the Bronx. I stayed at the dorm one summer.
Right.
I just didn't live in Staten Island.
But here's the deal. And for a while... while we were already married, you were living most of the time in Philadelphia because you had to get a job teaching after you got your PhD. So you're casting about for places to teach. You know, you're going to pursue your career as a gerontologist, as a sociologist, as a professor.
This is my 11th year here. I thought it was my 10th.
It
says going in 11.
It can't be. We moved in 2009. It can't be your 11th year. Anyway, so, you know, you're thinking you maybe stay where you were in Philadelphia. We looked at a place in North Dakota. We looked at one or two other places.
Connecticut, Hartford.
Right, yeah. And then she was invited to come out here to UNC, University of Northern Colorado, and deal with the Gero department here and teach here. And you came and you know, you got off the plane, you saw the mountains, you saw the sky, the air, and you're like...
I like the mountains, you know. I mean,
Yeah. There's nothing to apologize.
Because of the practices that I do in my own ethical code, I really like natural beauty. I think, you know, the earth is beautiful, and I thought they were just really pretty. Yeah. I probably was oxygen deprived. That's probably the first, you know.
Yeah, because you're 5,000 feet up when you're used to being close to sea level. I mean, I like filth. I like whores. I like murderers.
The weird part is when I go back to New York, everything seems dirty and loud.
Yes.
And crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean,
it's weird.
You got on a train, you're almost like, it was almost overwhelming, you know?
Penn Station in rush hour was like Fight Club. It was like, wow! We had one poor guy, he was visiting this country, and he's holding his phone almost in tears, pointing, because he can't figure out which track the train's on. So my friend Natalie, who's like a saint, she's like, we have to help him, because he is like completely like lost.
Yeah.
You know?
See, I would have pushed him.
No, and so we got him to the train because he wouldn't have found it. And so we got him to the track, but it was rough.
Yeah. So we decided, you decided, I'm like, okay, I'll go wherever, because you had a job, I barely had any kind of income.
You know, my funnest memory is we bought a pod, and we start loading the pod. It's like a big box where you load stuff and the machine comes. So we had cousins who were fascinated because the machine comes like a huge spider, and it lifts it up and it spins it, so they were fascinated by that. I just remember our friends Nihal and G helping us, and I remember at one point G had climbed in the pod, and all you see, he's like on a mountain of like a sofa, a bureau, like records, and you see him standing on top saying, there's more room, we can fit more stuff in here, and he's like loading stuff in.
Well, because what happened was I loaded a bunch of stuff, you helped me load some stuff, but I don't know spatial things, so I loaded up and there wasn't much room left. And then he goes in there, and he's sort of like in cubic inches.
He's a physicist. He's like, pew, pew, pew. Yeah.
He found like miles more room in the pod. But the point was, we moved here, you know, back in August of 2009, and, you know, it's open roads and tumbleweeds and dust and...
No, it's not. That wasn't so late.
I saw a tumbleweed.
Yeah.
I did. And I loved it. I loved seeing a tumbleweed, for crying out loud.
To see chickens.
I saw chickens. You know, in people's yards. This was completely new. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Bakbagak. I didn't say anything bad about it. I just said we saw chickens. Mad. Don't be mad. All right, don't. She's mad. There we go. Ow, that hurts, Mrs. Bakbagak. Anyway, what we didn't know when we first moved here, we knew that she would teach at UNC. We knew there was a university where hopefully they'd throw me some crumbs and let me teach a class or two. Yeah. We knew there'd be some restaurants, mostly Mexican. We knew there'd be a lot of white people. Yeah. What else did we didn't really know. We knew there was a synagogue, and we were living pretty close to it. That was kind of cool.
We didn't know when we first started.
Well, it was still walking distance. It was still, 3/4 of a mile. Yeah,
but we didn't know about the biggest festival, David's sacred holy day of the year.
Of all the places that we could move.
Yeah.
There are other cities in America that have potato days.
That's true.
But we moved to the one city in Colorado that has an annual potato day, which is held in Centennial Village.
Oh, I have something for you.
Oh, boy.
That you might want to show on the air.
Oh, boy. And basically, it's a celebration of what life was like here 150 years ago. That's all it is. It's blacksmithing and how they made soap and, you know, farm animals and things. Oh, you printed this?
I printed it on hard paper. This is...
Oh, yeah, okay,
This is a soft paper.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, I'm sorry.
I want to frame that.
This is just regular paper, and these are cardstock.
Oh, I'm not sure. I guess we'll frame the cardstock, because this is magnificent.
There's two of them. You have three.
Now this.
Yeah, so I'll keep one in a file for you.
Let me explain this. Somebody put this up at a radio station that I listen to pretty often over in New Jersey called WFMU. And just, I mean, because when he does his playlist, he always puts up something kind of weird and funny.
Yeah.
But then, just out of nowhere, I was listening to last week's show, and before the playlist of the show, they put up this. I'm just going to hold this up. I'll describe
Can you
it
read
now.
it?
This is, well, let people look. It's like we're TV now. I got to sort of show this stuff. So, it's Mickey Rooney's Potato Fantasy
And that's like if you
Family
look on
Restaurant.
It's a potato, mashed potato, French fries, and like au gratin for
£3,
like $1.29. Yeah.
a 3-pound dish for $1.29. There's Mickey. There's the
his Potato Fantasy restaurant.
and I'll read some of this.
Here, I'll take one.
Sure, yeah, please.
You take that one, David, to
Excuse me.
read.
Mickey is very excited about his all new restaurant. What a great country where a fella can offer up hot spuds to whoever wants to eat them. Kapow, because like Capuzzi or something. And here at Mickey Rooney's Potato Fantasy Family Restaurant, he does just that. He serves great potato dishes at great potato prices to great potato families like yours. You don't have to bring anyone. Come in by yourself, says Mickey, and we'll talk about me, says Mickey Rooney's Potato Fantasy on Ethel
Read
Street.
this one. It says beer and wine bar, free
Yeah.
bread with orders, kids menu, free handshake for seniors and veterans, live drumming Sunday nights, and happy half hour. Potatoes baked every way Mickey likes them baked, boiled, French, mashed, au gratin, chips, salad, potato shakes.
Potato
Mickey
shakes,
says try 'em.
Now the genius of this, was that
Where is it? Where's P.O.?
Pennsylvania, I think.
P.O. is for potato, I think.
Oh, maybe.
Ethel
that'd be
Street.
funny.
I don't know.
Well, this is the deal, because I immediately looked this up, and there was a point.
It's in North Hollywood.
Oh, California.
North
okay.
Hollywood, USA. It's on the picture.
Mickey Rooney in like the 1970s.
Yeah.
He went through peaks and valleys in his career,
Oh,
as
yes.
we all know.
This is one of the valleys, I would assume.
He was one of the highest paid stars in Hollywood.
As a child.
As a child, and then he went bankrupt. And then he got Sugar Babies
Yes,
on Broadway.
yes.
And he was making like $75,000 a week
But
doing sugar back then.
He didn't do well.
Well, he invested it in a bunch of ridiculous businesses that, like a hair, fake hair thing on a bald head, and just dozens of things that he put his money and patents into. And then he went bankrupt again.
Oh, my God.
But the joy and the beauty of this is, although the sadness of this is that this is a spoof. This turned out to be this wasn't real. There was not an actual Mickey Rooney's Potato Fantasy restaurant, which made I cried for like half an
That's
hour when I realized that
sad,
this was just somebody's brilliantly designed fake joke of exactly the way these things used to look.
Yes.
I mean, it's the perfect ad for a 1950s, 60s.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't
Whoever
real.
did it, that's a beautiful job. Well,
It is a fantasy.
You have a bunch of copies to frame, baby.
But if you do come to Potato Day next Saturday in Greeley for $7, that is the admission fee now, you do get a free baked potato with fixings. So you have cheese, usually salsa, salt,
Someone
pepper.
said bacon, but I don't remember seeing bacon.
Oh, if they, I don't know. I hope they do. Maybe they have Bacos, because bacon would make it.
Maybe they do. I can't remember.
By the way, welcome to Laura Ann and Kenny and Wayne and Richard and Howard and John and Jeffrey and Trevor from my old radio station, WGBB. Trevor still does a gospel show.
Oh, yes. He used to Trevor, thank you for driving us to the Long Island Railroad. He used to drive us, yeah.
So thank you, Trev, and hope that you're doing great. So, Potato Day. We won't be here next week, but oh my God, I will report back to you on it.
At least there'll be minimal pictures. Once I clean my phone, there'll be pictures.
Because they also have baby animals. That's what I go for.
I could bring the beautiful camera, the Sony camera, and we could do video on that.
That'd be if we can figure out how that thing works. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Just the camera, the regular camera takes video.
Oh, you mean the
yeah?
Because we have a video camera somewhere that I never got to physically know how to work. But anyway, what else can we talk about before we get to Greeley crimes and old times, ladies and before, just also a reminder, and in case Rabbi Sol forgets to mention it with Carl Gottlieb, is that tomorrow, a week before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holiday, is the annual Chabad Lubavitch telethon.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. I imagine it's still on cable in
Somewhere.
normal Eastern places.
Somewhere.
But now you just have to watch it online. Wow. Rabbi Kunin, I believe, is still alive and well.
Really?
I'm not sure who's hosting. Carol O'Connor's dead. Jan Murray's dead. Elon Gold was so good for a few years. I don't know who's... So, they probably get... was it Maury Povich?
Maury Povich?
Either him or the other guy, or Jerry Springer. He got...
Really?
Yeah, they get these people.
Oh, because they want somebody well-known,
yeah. And they're also in Hollywood.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Unlike Carol O'Connor, they tend to be Jewish. Yeah. So maybe John Voight will dance with the rabbis.
He always does.
I know, you know who died a few years ago?
Who?
Yossi Piamenta.
Oh.
And the Piamenta Orchestra. He's just this like potato-shaped man with a yarmulke and a flute. Oh, couldn't wait to see him.
Well, I'm sure they'll drag out some boys' choir where they can't sing, they all scream.
And of course, I hope Mordechai Ben David. He has to be there. He's got he can sing "We Want Mashiach Now."
He always sings that.
Dylan probably won't show up as he did many years ago with Harry Dean Stanton.
If he went and sang those ballads, it would just, people would start taking their money back.
It would be the first telethon in history that actually has a negative balance.
That's right. That they owe people money.
Yeah. Oh, and of course we lost.
This is too bright. The screen.
That producer last year.
Who? Orbach?
No. The guy who was actually literally producing the Chabad telethons.
The guy who drank of the vodka?
Yes. And that great story of the time.
His name is Jerry, right?
Jerry Weintraub.
Thank you.
Weintraub, thank you, yes.
But
Jerry
he's always talking about how he drinks his Uzi and he likes a good vodka.
Well, he was in a car accident.
And the horrible part was, it's all about drug rehab, and he's talking about how he did drugs and alcohol.
Yes,
yeah.
I mean, that day.
Yes.
Because he injured his arm, and he was on a mix of
Stoli and
pills.
painkillers, oxycodone, he said, yeah.
So they're doing this telethon to get people off addictive substances,
yes.
And the producer of the telethon is rambling in his opening monologue, saying, I'm not fully in charge of my faculties right now because I'm on a mix of painkillers and Stoli.
Vodka.
Beautiful.
At least they could treat him.
Yeah. The later years of the telethon are not what the old years used to be.
They're not as tight, yeah.
They're not. No. The problem is they're tighter. Back in the day, if the rabbis wanted to come out and dance, they would dance for like 20 minutes. Everything would stop. And they would just start dancing and singing and jumping around. Now it's like a minute and a half, and then they go.
They're too posh.
Commercial and
maybe
stuff.
Maybe because they're getting older and they can't, their functional abilities.
And the greatest moment ever in the history of the telethon, it had to be in the first 2 or 3 years, when they bring out this couple who've given a lot of money to this cause, to the Chabad cause for rehab and stuff, and. They thank them so much, and the guy goes to shake the rabbi's hand, and the woman goes to shake the rabbi. He's like, "Don't touch the rabbi!" Because women are not supposed to touch. And they're pulling her away. He's like, "Don't touch him!"
She should be like, "I want my money back." Thank you. My God.
And I wrote in a few years ago to Chabad to ask if they would sell, or if they have the old tapes, the old videos.
Yeah. They must.
From those first 3. They must, but they're not. They're not letting those go after.
Well, they probably want to be more smooth. They're probably, the production value for them, they probably want a little bit.
So Harry Shearer probably has like a VHS collection of these things. Harry, if you're listening.
Or maybe the local Chabad, a local Chabad may have it.
Yeah.
The big mother Chabad.
The local, well, no, probably the LA, the Hollywood Chabad has
if we go to
kinescopes.
If we go to see our friend's daughter in Burbank, you could go and check it out.
I would just sit there. I say, I'll leave it here. I just want to see, that first year again. And that second year, because it was both magnificent and a car wreck at the same time.
It was like a Fellini film on steroids.
Yes, Felliniowitz.
It was like a Fellini film made by your, I don't know.
Yeah.
By
David Lynch.
By David Lynch, and who else?
And Tim Burton.
And Tim Burton, yes.
Yeah.
While they were both on Stolian pills.
So tomorrow night, I think it starts 6 o'clock California time or something like that.
They're an
for
hour,
about 3-4 hours.
Behind or ahead?
California's an hour earlier than we are.
Oh, okay.
2 hours, 3 hours earlier than New York.
It goes later when you go east and earlier when you go west,
That is correct,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So I think maybe 5 or 6 o'clock California time, which would be 6 or 7 or 8 our time. Just go to Chabad.org and Google telethon. And it will be there. I've streamed it the last couple of years, just having it on in the background. And you still get Mordechai Ben David.
And you still get
those
moments,
goddamn children's choirs. And you still get Rabbi Kunin standing by like clowns on black velvet silk painting of the Lubavitcher Rebbe doing a prayer.
Yes.
You don't get this. There aren't any telethons anymore. MD,
what happened
they
to
stopped.
Jerry Lewis?
Well, he died.
Oh.
And they pushed him out before he died, and everybody got mad at them. Yeah.
Whoa.
They said, we don't want any part of it. Like,
why?
Like, they won't be there without him.
What did he do?
Well, he's Jerry Lewis. He's a friggin' asshole. But,
in real life?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
So that's why.
So they pushed him away, and then he left, and then they went from being this wonderful 24-hour train wreck.
But they raised a lot of money.
Oh, sure they. Yeah. Did they cure one kid?
Yeah, maybe they crowdsourced. We don't know.
Oh, no, I'm sure. I hope they're still making money to try and help muscular dystrophy. But in all those years since, like the 1950s.
There's so many types, though. But there's so many types.
Of MD?
Yeah, they must have made different.
Well, sure. There's an MD who specializes in the larynx. There's an MD who specializes in eye surgery. I'm kidding. No, but yeah, I just wish.
If you were an MD, we'd be in much better shape.
Where's the time that finally fucking cures something?
They can't. They said they cured polio and smallpox and stuff, but we still have outbreaks.
There were no telethons for that.
Yes, there were.
That'd be cool if they had a polio telethon with dancing children in there.
You didn't see it.
Really? They had them back in the day?
You got to do Greeley Crimes No Time.
Because they did a lot of live television back then.
I got to get going.
In fact, back in the early days of TV, it would have been special if they had a pre-taped 24-hour telethon, because all the other television dramas were live.
Wow.
So it's this is special. We pre-recorded this. Oh, yeah.
Let's do Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
All right, let's do Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And what else do we want to talk about? Oh, no, come on. We got to talk about one more thing before we get to Greeley Crimes and Old Times. You know what we got to talk about.
Give me a second.
Do you have a...
I do.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned our friends Nihal and G, right? Nihal, our Turkish friend, we knew her in New York. She lives in Washington, D.C. and Maryland now. High-level science teacher, professor.
No, she's not a science teacher. She has a lab.
She doesn't teach any classes at all?
She got a science swagger. No, she's got her own empire.
Oh, okay.
She's like the queen of the South, the thing, but only in science.
Oh, okay. So what would you call it? A scientist? Is she a scientist?
Yeah.
So major person. Mm-hmm. So, and we get to see her very rarely because we don't live in New York anymore and we're not on the East Coast.
When she comes west, she always sees us.
Maybe once a year.
We thought we would take her. She kind of picked the restaurant to a special restaurant in a local area.
Yeah.
Which is called La Luz, which means in Spanish light.
Right. Light.
Yeah, which was, you would need to see a physician's light if you went in there.
Because we went to, it was very tasty.
They had a nice salsa bar.
And we ate outside. It was very pleasant.
Yes.
Very good. I had a nice Mexican steak thing, so it was very good. Very good. I mean, Mexican can only be so special in terms of food. I'm sorry, but it was very good for Mexican food. And now, this was maybe, when was it? A couple of months ago? Not even. Like 2-3 months ago, she was in town.
No, it wasn't the last visit. Last time we went to Rio. This time.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, it was a couple. It must have been. We were spared because it was at least a year ago. She comes once a year for a conference. So last year.
I feel like it was so much more recent.
No.
Okay. So we went to this place, La Luz, in Fort Collins, right?
Yeah.
And there's an article in the paper last week that La Luz, this restaurant we ate at, had 19 people were severely
affected by salmonella.
Salmonella poisoning,
yes.
Which could come from like unwashed lettuce, or it could come transmission from chicken that isn't cooked enough, I think. And they don't know how. They're investigating how. But this restaurant in Fort Collins is currently closed while they investigate where the salmonella came from. I think they call it La Luz because all the people who go there, they start moving slowly towards the light, Thing is, if you get this disease, right, and you get nausea, diarrhea, dehydration, and vomiting, how is that so different from a typical Mexican restaurant? That's what I want to know. Is it really so different from Taco Bell?
Yes, you get a high-grade fever. You get explosive diarrhea and vomiting.
Well, look at the funny thing is,
There's
The
nothing
other-
funny about any explosive body parts.
Yes, I did a whole show on it. Yes, there is.
Yes, true.
But the previous
I
Fort
think
Collins
it's when they
restaurant.
start serving El Tiramisu.
Yeah, but remember the other restaurant that had an issue? It was called Burrito Delight.
Oh, yes, it's back open in Tacona and Brighton.
Fort Lupton!
Fort Lupton in
Fort
Tacona.
Lupton. Burrito
Now it's
Delight had
open.
salmonella too.
And they had over 20 cases. Yeah, now they're open again.
But the thing is, you expect salmonella at Burrito Delight. It's actually on the menu. There's an upcharge of 10%. It's like, you want salmonella with your beans? Okay.
That's horrible.
It's racist, but it's funny, ladies and
It would
gentlemen.
kill
Yeah.
me. It would have killed me.
I don't know if it would have killed you. You just would have drunk a lot of, what's that stuff? The Gatorade.
IV.
Oh. Why IV and not just Gatorade?
Because you can't get enough. The IV goes directly into your blood system.
Yeah.
But you can't get enough water into your body quickly enough.
How quickly does it have to go in there?
Quickly. Yeah. When you have explosive vomiting and diarrhea,
Yeah.
you need hydration.
Right, but you go say 8 ounces.
No.
Really?
Yeah, you
I
need
still don't understand why.
Yeah.
You flood your body immediately
It
with
goes
stuff?
right into your bloodstream. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Or else what? You just dehydrate too
Or
much?
else you dehydrate, your kidneys shut down, and you die.
That's not good.
No,
that
it's
is
very
not good.
bad. That's not exactly how you celebrate, Anne Ethel's 50th birthday, taking her to the restaurant, and then everyone getting,
Supersize my colon.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't know if La Luz will reopen. Would you go back to La Luz if it did reopen?
Because I have health issues, no. If
you get salad, so it could very well be off lettuce.
If I was a normal, healthy person, I'd have no problem with it.
Really?
But because I have health issues that dehydration would be bad, I can't.
Oh, wow.
I can't. I would be afraid of my health.
Like if you went to a restaurant and you saw, and I've seen it, not recently, but back in, you saw a cockroach crawling up the wall. Would you go...
Well, the good thing is, here I don't know how they do it. I know they have health ratings of restaurants.
Yeah.
But back east and in California, they do ABC, they rate them. So I always look for an A restaurant because it means either they're bribing the health inspector or they're actually clean.
But you have to look at the things that they sometimes fail on. Or so in your own kitchen, you violate those laws.
Well, but the one when we were in Hewlett, the one Chinese restaurant had medication above the stove.
So what?
And they were like, what happens if it falls in the cooking?
But it didn't.
But
It
you
was
don't
probably
know. You don't know.
I
You
know.
shouldn't have it. When my one friend, I went to visit her in the dorm, and her roommate put motor oil on top of the fridge, and I was like, "That's so weird. If it falls in on the food."
But how if you have
If you
see that
knock
would be
it
a
over,
violation.
yeah.
You have a closed refrigerator
But it could
with a
knock
can of
over.
motor oil on it.
No, it was a little bottle. If it
Bottle.
knocked over, it could have gone on the stove, or it could have gone in the food.
Yeah, well, the stove
you
would be
can't have that.
dangerous
You
because
can't
of
have that.
Okay.
For me, if you're healthy, you can eat there. That would be my thing. But if you have any pre-existing conditions, or you're pregnant, or you're a kid, or you have immunosuppression...
Yeah, I'm not
or something,
pregnant. I mean, I have the belly for it, but no,
But then I would say no, but if you're healthy, there's no problem. Healthy people you can do whatever you wish.
Well, no, if a healthy person gets salmonella, they're no longer healthy. They have salmonella.
But if somebody who has a health condition gets it, they could get more sick.
Worse sick. Yeah. No question about that.
Sicker.
So it's just, I don't think I've eaten at a restaurant that's been closed. In fact, my favorite go-to restaurant in the theater district for a couple of years was, because it was very reasonably priced, and it was a Thai place, and they did the Thai-style sausage in the greens and stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was
like a
spicy.
salad, yeah.
Oh, it was so good. Like tom yum salad with sausage.
You took
it was
me there once, I think.
so
Yeah,
good.
a little hole in the wall.
Yeah, on West 44th Street it was. And I would go there because every other place would be $25 for an entree, or it would take 2 hours before you got the hell out of there.
But what's the kick?
No, there was no kick. I loved eating there. And then one time I'm like, ooh, I've got a show at 8 o'clock. It's 6:45, or probably later, like 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I need someplace quick that's really good, and I love this. And gone, Borga Health, bye-bye. I never got sick there, never had a problem. Lord knows what animals they were actually putting into the sausage.
Don't say it, don't
I'm
say
just
it.
saying,
Please, David,
yeah,
I'm gonna get
it never bugged me. And I missed the place terribly. Yeah. They were right next to Cafe Eau de Trois. And that place one time was $30 and then perfectly fine, and took an hour and a half to get out of there. Next door, little Thai place. Boom,
Maybe
boom.
you need to get maybe what you need to do is work with a food truck. Like go on, look for food trucks in the theater district and just find a food truck you like.
You can't really because there's no traffic.
No, but I'm sure they park in a certain area.
Yeah, well, I always do. This is the hell of my life. I do this still when I go back to New York twice a year, and I don't have much time, and I'm heading either to the theater or to my conference, and there'll be a hero truck. Those are fabulous. You get they used to be $5, now they're $7. You get a gyro with the meat in it, and halfway through there's sauce on my shirt. There's lamb dripping down all over me. There's onion falling on my pants. I'm trying because it's street. You don't have a table to sit at.
Just bring a Tupperware. Bring a Tupperware. You could put it in there and eat.
Or tray.
Yeah,
if I could carry on a dinner tray wherever I go, that would be all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's do Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Let's do Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And by the way, welcome to Jeffrey and Trevor and David and Warhol. Welcome, Warhol.
Look at the cute little pictures they have, too.
And Jeff
and
Jolinda and Joan and David from my old high school.
You have very good-looking listeners. Look at them.
We do indeed.
They're very
better looking than the host.
They're very snazzy.
And just a reminder, September 8th is Potato Day.
Would you play Swagger So Cold?
I can play, if I can find it, and remember, I can only play about 30 seconds of it.
Forget it.
Yeah. That's the joy of Facebook and copyright. But anywho, what I can do is playing a little bit of a Tom Waits number that gets us into Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We do this every week based on 2 stories in the Greeley Tribune, our local newspaper, where they, one column that they do takes the phone calls that come into the local police dispatch, and the weirdest, most ridiculous ones are reprinted in the newspaper that week. And then there's also another column called Greeley 100 Years Ago, where they literally go through the papers from 1918 and find the dumbest, most nostalgic, most, oh my God, sort of items and remind us of what they were. So, are you ready to be criminalized and old-matized? And by the way, Greeley Tribune is falling down on the job because there was not a new cop log this week in the paper.
I think they're getting ready. They're gearing up for Potato Day. They're saving
They've got
resources,
all their reporters on that.
The local teams, the flash mobs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You should do a flash mob one year of people dancing in potato costumes. That'd be awesome.
Here's the beautiful thing. If you go to the official website of Potato Day for the Greeley, because it's a benefit, by the way, it's $7 for a friggin' potato and to get into this thing. But the money goes to the Greeley museums.
Yeah.
So, but thing is, if you go to their special thing, they have all the information about where it is, Centennial Village, 10 to 4 o'clock. It's Saturday. This is what you got. And there's even, honest, a bar that you can pull down for local hotels. Like, people will come here. People will fly here from Switzerland.
If we ever leave Greeley, you'd come back.
I would.
Yeah. So what are you talking about? You'd be the first one on the plane.
Okay, fair enough. Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded to O Street, and 35th Avenue for a report of a man with weird eyes.
Maybe it's the Rajneeshi.
It could be.
It's Rajneeshi.
He's got those...
Swagger so cold. Swagger so cold.
We've been watching this documentary called Wild Wild Country. It's very long, but it's very good, about Bhagwan Rajneesh, if anybody remembers him. It's very well done. Anyway, and by the way, that is the whole item. Somebody called the police department about a man with
Betty
weird
Davis eyes.
Or maybe he has
No, you know who it is?
several eyes. Who?
I think it's the one with the mustache, probably.
He's very furtive, if you think about it.
Oh, there you go. See, he's got weird eyes. Go to O Street, Potato.
Yeah. My eyes are pretty good, but I'm a professor here, so I have a lot of weird pupils. That's a little eye joke for the guy. 30 lashes for me. Okay, here we go. A boy worker in the fields near Kersey was injured when the plow horse team he was operating broke from the plow and ran.
Yeah?
He suffered a cut to the back of his head and had 16 stitches. Okay, so this poor plow boy.
That's awful.
His bro, he was terribly hurt. Okay.
Then he went to Lalouse. Mommy said, I'll take you to Lalouse, sonny. You'll feel better.
Actually, diarrhea started coming out of his cut. It was like bad. No, but here's the deal.
Yeah.
Plow boy, you've got a picture of this kid, right?
Yeah, probably 14, 8.
He's normally in kindergarten this time of year, but he's working the fields due to a labor shortage. The boy is 5 years old.
Whoa. Swagger so cold.
5
Wait,
years
hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get mad if I can't find it.
But the good news is he went to, when he was all stitched up, he went to the local Catholic priest, and
Oh, God.
the priest plowed him.
God, that's horrible.
I know he is, yes. A deranged elderly man
Oh, God.
was picked up by the police at the S&S Lumber Company yesterday.
Yeah?
He told police he was sleeping at that hotel,
What is
and he
it?
pointed to a pile of lumber.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it might have been. We had the guy who lived under the rock, so maybe he was
Yeah,
sleeping.
maybe he was.
Maybe it fell apart.
He said he was eating at that restaurant, and he was pointing to the lumberyard office. The man is being checked by doctors.
Poor man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's hard to find a good restaurant. I understand.
I know, right?
It's hard.
Well, with Lalouse closed, he probably had better stomach, less stomach problems than someone who ate at Lalouse, I'll tell you.
Sad.
I know.
It's got something cognitively going on.
Police responded to 11th Avenue. Oh, here we go.
What?
Speaking of Mexican food, for a report of a small, quote, Yo quiero Taco Bell dog hiding under a truck. Somebody must have called in.
It's a
one of them-
chihuahua.
The person calling in probably couldn't think of the word chihuahua. Says, it's one of them Yo quiero Taco Bell dogs.
Wow.
It's under the truck there. The bad news is that it really was a Taco Bell truck and the dog was never heard from again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the hindquarters went to Lalouse. Because of the war with Germany, all of the German textbooks in Fort Morgan are being seized, and there will be... This is Greeley, Colorado in 1918, by the way, folks. So they're seizing all the German textbooks in Fort Morgan, and there will be a public book burning ceremony on Thursday night. Everyone is invited to watch.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that great? Did you know that book burnings in Greeley?
Wow.
Way back when. I mean, if it was 1944, I would have done it.
Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of, issues with
But I mean, this was 1918. This was the first war when Germany was not, they got into the war just because of entangling alliances, not Jew killing.
We had internment camps out here, too, right? We had a lot of stuff.
In which war? In two? We had Japanese here?
Yeah.
Wow.
The West had a lot of internment camps for Japanese. Remember where our vet's husband's mom and dad met.
I thought they went to Hawaii and went to...
No, here. Here, they were in the West.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway. Wow. Got quiet all of a sudden. Okay, well, let's raise the laugh quotient, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully. Oh.
What?
A Greeley minister married his sweetheart in Lyons yesterday, and a group of residents tried to kidnap him.
Why?
In a folly of chaos.
Aww.
It was a trick kidnapping, and they were going to take him to a canyon 6 miles away.
God.
And make him walk back.
That's not fun.
It's horrible.
When my friend got married, she was a Hungarian, and they said the custom was that you throw the bride in the shower. Like at the bridal shower, and we're like that.
In a little
Yes,
shower?
like when they're with their clothes on, and we refused to do it.
Now, is that during the bridal shower or the actual wedding?
No, that's the bridal shower. I don't get it.
Well, but if it's Hungarian custom, you do it.
I think they just made it up to harass the bride.
Maybe. Well, this was a trick kidnapping for the groom. It was a minister, but here's the thing. They were going to do this, right? And they're going to bring him back to a canyon 6 miles away, make him walk.
Yeah?
However,
What?
There's always a however.
What happened?
A riot broke out.
Wait, do we have any riot sounds?
Let's see if we have. No, that's not good.
Whatever.
That's kind of starts a riot. Oh, there we go.
Whatever.
This is your brain on drugs. There was the riot right there. And 7 people were injured.
God.
That's a wedding. They used to know how to throw a shindig back then.
That's like, man, you
They
know.
used to dig shins. Oh,
That's
my
crazy.
goodness. Police responded to 24th Avenue and 9th Street for a report of a man who relieved himself on the caller's truck.
Ew! Wait, we don't wait.
Well,
hold
it's
on.
just pee.
No, relieving is
I hope.
different. Wait, where is it? I think relieving is doo-doo.
No, relieving is pee. You
Relieving
pee
is
against it.
doo-doo.
Who's got poop against a truck?
That's doo-doo.
Yeah, no, relieving is...
Pee-pee?
Yeah.
Sissy?
Guy peed the other
Sissy?
day. Yeah, yes. So, but there's more. 5 minutes later, police responded to a pizza restaurant 2 blocks away.
Oh, no.
And a man bragging about peeing on somebody's truck. It's like... Because I guess public urination is
because
the
your
crime.
ding-dong is out. Yeah.
Although, speaking of which, sometimes in Greeley crimes and all times we go elsewhere and we sort of look for other places to
tie in, right?
Yeah, because it's not all only about Greeley. Sometimes there's interesting news from other places. Dateline Paris. In a new experimental program, officials are rolling out eco-friendly public urinals.
Nice.
The devices, called Uretrottoir, can it make them easier to say? Uretrottoir.
What does it mean in French?
Well, it combines the French words for pavement and urinal.
Urinal pavement?
Uretrottoir.
Pavement urinal?
Yeah. Are bright red, and they're put right on the street, so they're not like these little porta potties.
Oh, no,
They're
that's
like,
disgusting.
It's like a mailbox right in the middle of the street. And to show what they are...
No.
They put... This is true. There's a big red and white sign over them that shows a cartoon of a man peeing.
What do the women do?
Nothing. These are for men. The receptacles are filled with straw and...
Oh, God.
And compost to keep odors down. What?
That sounds worse and worse.
Well, what's really cool is when... I guess after a week or
like
two,
eau de toilette?
Some lucky person who has some immigrant in France who has a job. Their job is to remove the insides of this Uretrottoir, and they use it for compost. It becomes stuff that they can put on fields and things. What?
It's disgusting all the way around.
All right. Well, some Parisians complain that the Uretrottoirs are unsightly because they're literally like a block away from the Louvre.
Oh, God.
And there's one
Look,
by the
honey,
Seine.
it's the Louvre. It's the Louvre. It's the Louvre. Let's make a pee-pee.
Yeah, I love peeing. That's true.
That's terrible.
And then, as you would say, other people think that the whole idea is sexist because it's just for men.
I would say give a little shed, put one in that women can do pee-pee too.
Yeah.
What about diaper changing, all sorts of stuff like that?
Yeah. But I guess, with porta potties, you've got the issues of bums living in them. They start to reek after 2 days.
Yeah, but would you want to
They're
have
unsafe.
a restaurant or a house near a bunch of open urinals? You look out the first thing what a beautiful morning, and you see people peeing.
There's a bright Parisian man by the toilet. There's a bright Parisian man by the toilet.
I wouldn't want that.
His pee is a stream that's as bright as a dream.
Maybe it's You're in Town, the French version.
It could be, yeah. Well, this is the opposite. This is where it's free. You don't have to pay to pee.
Oh,
you just go.
For now.
Yeah, as opposed to going in, France has never smelled. You don't go to France for the smell. So this
smell.
could help.
There's no smell.
Maybe certain parts,
There's no
certain times.
smell.
All right, I guess not.
They need to just make porta potties that are family friendly.
Now, how do you do that?
You just get a porta potty that you can change a diaper. You can go in there, man or woman, or whatever you need to do, you can do. What happens if they start to go number 2 in them?
Oh. How
do you get away with the public indecency with going into public urinal in the street?
Well, because you can't actually see the wee and the wee. You imagine you're going up to like a mailbox, right? And so or a jukebox, and you're Doing like this. You got your thing. You do it. This is blocked.
Oh,
the
really?
sides of it are blocked. Yeah,
But
it's not like plexiglass.
Yeah, but the person next to you could see it.
No.
Isn't
No,
there
all they're going to
somebody
see is
next-
like nobody's pulling their pants down. They can't see your
What
butt.
happens if somebody can't get their zipper open and they have to pull their pants down? Then you see their tush.
Then you've got an issue. But then
Or
that
if they
person has an issue.
Or if they try to make doo-doo in there. I think they will.
You have to be about 7 foot tall. Think about it. Because remember, you pee, you're like this. You're pooing. You
could jump up.
You could.
Do you have any pictures of these?
I'm
gonna look it up.
Yeah, look it up on the computer there.
No, on my phone. Your computer's not. Oh!
Oh, you okay?
Not logged in, yeah.
While I remind people that this is the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and all our wonderful, our spuddy buddies who are watching the show, like Trevor and David and Warhol and Jeff and Jolinda and Joan and Dave and Phyllis. Welcome, Phyllis. And Pookie and the people and Tony and Rita and the other fine folks who have tuned in before. We're here every Saturday, 9 until noon or thereabouts, coming to you from the auspices of the University of Northern Colorado. We're on Facebook at Radio Dave Lefkowitz, as you well know, because you're all here. Please tell your friends, please tell your enemies, please tell your family. And we couldn't do this program without the fine folks at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. Since the mid-1970s, the Turon family has owned and operated...
God.
One second, please. Has owned and operated the... Yes.
This is not there, but this is like what they might look like.
No, that's not what they look like at all.
Look.
They're red, but... Well, that's more like a pissoir, and that could actually be in... We can show it. Like in a stadium somewhere. That is not it. Look for Yuri Toitois. U-R-I, I'll spell it.
Yuri Toitois, France.
Oh, maybe.
No, it doesn't.
No. U-R-I.
Okay. Wait, hold on.
Okay. Hold this up. T-R-O.
Okay.
T-T-O-I-R.
Okay.
Well, Joyce looks up Yuri Toitois. That is one thing that Hewlett Minuteman Press does not do. They do not create urinals. But they can probably put your logo on a urinal cake.
Oh, did you see it?
No, this is like a red mailbox.
It's wide open.
Well, sort of. You go up in front of it, you stand next to it, and you do your business. It's like men at urinals in male bathrooms. You can sort of see, but you don't see.
I want to get this.
Joyce is looking for the perfect picture of the Yuri Toitois to share with us here on Dave's Gone By.
There's one of a man peeing in it, but...
Well, see, there you go. Do you see his wing-wang?
Look, there's a boat full of people passing by. I can't...
Do you see his massive zub? No, you don't.
See, it won't bring me that one. But
well, it's showing you the straw inside them.
No, but there's a... This is a picture of a man peeing while a boat of people pass by.
Okay, so do they see... What do they see? Which is the boat one? This one here? I can't really even see from the picture. Oh, there he... See, there he is. What do you see? You see a man? He might as well be throwing away a piece of garbage.
Somebody
which
likes
it is. You know? He's just standing there. You don't see anything. You just see a man standing very close to some sort of box. Which is kind of what happens in a lot of clubs. Anyway, Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. They're right in the heart of Hewlett, Long Island. They're about 2.5 blocks from the Hewlett train station, across the street from that giant Petco that they have now. And here's the deal. These are all the things that they do and more. They're not just about copying single-sided black and white pages or double-sided color pages. They're and laminated pages. They can do binding and printing. Thing is, they can also do silk screening and put your company logo on calendars or pen and pencil sets or pieces of clothing. They can do flyers and banners and balloons. They do it all. Hewlett Minuteman Press. As a matter of fact, since we have Carl Gottlieb on the program later today, let's do J for Jaws. And since he's talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon, we'll do J for Jews. These are just some of the J's.
Maybe what's his name is here? The big dog.
Oh, excellent. Cool. Here, journals. Our specialty. One of the things that they they can put together a journal, be it an academic journal for a place like this, or just any kind of journal that you might need for personal or business use. Hewlett Minuteman Press.
What kind of journal?
They just say journals. That's one of the things that they can make for you. Our specialty, they say.
The dog.
Yeah. So, Hewlett Minuteman Press, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. They are the Copy Kings, and if you tell them Dave sent you get 10% off any job, big or small. At Hewlett Minuteman Press, they do it all. Okay, it is 10 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time, noon Eastern, and you're in the Daverhood with the 665th episode. Yeah. Of this program. We're calling it Mein Gott because Carl Gottlieb would get it, Mein Gott.
Mein God. Yes.
Yeah, he is our God today. Now, unfortunately, I didn't print out the page, but I can find it on here. I should probably Google it first, so give me a moment while I get my mail up so that we'll do one or two more Greeley crimes. Oh, here's Chrome. I already got Chrome up. That's why it's not doing anything. Excuse me. I'm just going to do a little bit of this.
What are you doing?
I'm getting my mail because I have
What?
An item that I need for the next segment of this important radio program. Okay, so I have that ready. Just so I have it ready. Anyway, Beth, what else is up? What's going on?
I'm looking for stuff I can't say on TV.
Oh, okay. Let's finish up Greeley Crimes and Old Times, and then we have, of course, Potato News.
Ooh. It's getting late.
Yeah, it's 10:01. So let's do one or two more. For example, police responded to Weld County Road 17 for a report of a dead person in a car.
God.
The caller reported that the man's head was tilted to the side. Potato will reenact. He was slack-jawed and did not move when she honked her horn. He woke up 3 minutes later before police arrived. Remember when that happened to us a couple of years ago? I was driving and there was this
and that guy looked like he was dead. Yeah.
Because there was a red light, and we stopped behind this guy at the red light, and then the light turned green. And he didn't move. And he didn't move, and the light turned red again. And we're honking, and we're like, hello, and then the light turned green again.
Looked like he was dead.
He looked frozen like rigor mortis.
Yeah.
And eventually we just kind of went around him and waved.
Because our swagger's so cold.
I guess drugs or what happens to people?
I don't know. Maybe it's apnea, like sleep apnea or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that happened this week in Greeley, Colorado. Also, farmers in the Eaton area. They're looking for those watermelon thieves again.
Oh, no.
Yes, they are. Many melons have been stolen or destroyed in the Eaton area. One farmer located one of the suspects this week, but before they could catch him, he dove into the Latham Reservoir.
Good Lord.
And was not seen again.
I mean, for real. Like, stealing watermelons, you can take it.
Well, the farmers watched, but they didn't see him come back up to the surface of the water.
No.
Someone said he must be sporting with the mermaids at the bottom of the lake.
That's called being dead.
Think about it. You're a watermelon thief. Mm-hmm. You're escaping. You've got 2 watermelons under your arms. You think?
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't want to let those watermelons go.
So he went to.
So he goes in the Latham Reservoir, like splash.
I think what he did was, while the farmers were distracted, he snuck out.
Where? How?
Just snuck out and crawled away.
Could have been without his watermelons, though.
Yeah.
How much could watermelons have cost back then?
Maybe they were more difficult to grow.
I mean, they're $6 now. Maybe they were 50
more
cents.
rare.
Maybe. Maybe in Colorado they were. I don't know. Do we have one more? Time for one more?
Yeah, whatever you want. It's your show.
Well, police responded to the family funplex.
Oh, we've been there?
Yeah, of course we have.
Uh-oh.
For a report of an unattended griddle.
What?
Yes.
An unattended griddle?
The caller said a woman...
What is this, IHOP? Unattended griddle?
At the funplex, yes. Someone plugged in the griddle, placed some food on it, and then left in a gold sedan.
Oh, God. I think
this is the crime of the century.
It was probably Snoop.
Oh,
God. It was probably Snoopers.
It's like Les Miserables in reverse, because somebody breaks in and leaves food.
I don't. Why would you, like, the funplex is for exercise, why would you plug a griddle in?
I don't know.
It makes no sense.
Somebody's probably making their lunch, and then forgot and went to do an errand.
Making a panini?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Maybe they forgot the Grey Poupon Dijon mustard.
Yeah. I mean, if it was, there's probably a lunchroom for the workers at the
but
Fun
why
Fest,
would
which
he-
would have a microwave or
Yeah,
something.
but
Why would you have a pancake griddle?
No, I don't get
And
it.
then you turn it on. It is dangerous. But yeah.
Just unplug it.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
Well, maybe you need to call the police to unplug
Yeah, I guess so.
a hot
Maybe I have
griddle.
to shoot it.
it. Man. Okay. I think it's time
Potato
to
news?
move away from the human news. And since Potato Day is only 7 days away, next week we won't be here because I will be physically at Potato Day in Greeley, Colorado. And so because of that, we're gonna do a new edition. Oh my God! My arm.
Here, put
Where's
them
my
in.
arm?
In. Don't yell. Shh, don't
Okay.
yell.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Of Potato News, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, so exciting. I know. You can barely contain yourselves. You need
You
one of
better
those
contain yourself
Uritois.
because you need that outfit for next week.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna mess it up. But
Okay.
it is.
You look so cute.
Thank you, darling. You're not so bad yourself.
Thank you.
You're even cuter than that stupid goddamn owl.
Don't bring it up.
Yeah.
Haters gonna hate. Oh, our friend said she got the magazine at the library. We got to go there and get it.
Yeah. Which
Yeah,
library?
Centennial.
Oh, the actual library.
Yeah.
Library. Oh, cool. Okay. I gotta get there anyway. Get a new movie to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So let's. I'm just scrolling down to find the Potato News.
Just do Control F.
Here it is.
Okay.
So, are you ready, babe? Are you ready? I've got to get the intro music going for Potato News. You say potato, I say potato. Let's call the whole thing Potato News. Potato News it is, ladies and gentlemen, here on this Saturday, first Saturday of September 1st, 2018. Good morning. This is Spudward R. Murrow with the Potato News for today, September 1st, 2018. Dateline, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and a crime wave.
Oh no.
For years, the fast food specialty restaurant Thrasher's French Fries
Oh yes.
has forbidden its customers to use ketchup. They don't sell it, they don't offer it, or give it away. Yes, they have salt or cider vinegar, but no chups. This has led some customers to go to the nearby eatery Gus and Gus Place and ask for it. But Gus and Gus won't give away free ketchup or even sell it to non-Gus and Gus diners.
Whoa.
So, hangry Thrashers customers have been stealing ketchup packets just for that sweet, sweet taste of tomato. At nearby Louie's Pizza, they're charging $1 for a 4-ounce cup of ketchup. The owner says, "It's a business. I'm not the Red Cross." Though people get cross if he won't give them the red.
Yes. That's tense. Too tense.
Oh, my goodness. Dateline, Honduras. This year, that country is predicted to harvest more than 28,000 tons of potatoes on 1,700 hectares of land. Oh, yeah. The crop is actually down from last year due to less rainfall and El Nino, but production goals will still be achieved. Just a reminder that the potato is a hugely important economic staple in Honduras. Recently, the Ministry of Agriculture held an educational forum called Potato Identifies and Feeds Us,
Whoa. Deep.
which was attended by 550 lucky people.
Whoa.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Thank you, potato.
Did any of our potatoes go?
It was for humans.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Because potatoes identify themselves.
Yeah,
it's
they
the one thing that they
identify-
can
yeah,
look in the
yeah,
mirror
yeah,
and
yeah.
identify. Dateline, Sun Valley, Idaho. Since 1989, Don Diorn has been a high-ranking member of the Idaho Potato Commission. Now vice president, at the end of this year, Mr. O'Diorn will retire from that position. The good news. Even in retirement, Ogiorn will continue his beloved blog, Dr. Potato, on the Idaho Potato Commission website. He has more than 770 postings on that website because people have so many questions about potatoes, as opposed to me being questionable about potatoes. Okay, Dateline, Greeley, Colorado! And a reminder that Saturday, September 8th is Potato Day in Centennial Village. A fundraiser for Greeley Museum's Potato Day offers such thrilling events as quilting.
Quilting? David, put something more spicy. Quilting?
An old-fashioned telephone depot.
Oh, boy.
Mexican and First Nation dancers.
Whoa.
A book sale, and various animals to pet and admire.
You should have let off with the animal petting.
Well, that would be thrilling.
Yeah.
Your $7 admission includes a free loaded baked potato, which is cognitive dissonance at its highest.
Well, also the potatoes do get loaded on Potato Day.
They do.
Yeah,
they do indeed on salsa. Remember, Potato Day, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Centennial Village, Greeley, Colorado. It's spectacular.
Will we be there? Will we be there the whole time?
We'll be there from about 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. the next.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Next day, actually.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
We'll sleep in the historic village.
Giving you the potato-related weather, clouds and rain today, giving way to sunny mid-80s temperatures throughout Greeley in this perfect week of weather for amassing starch and tightening those peels. This has been the Potato News with me, Spudwardar Murrow. Good night and good growth. Yeah. He's such a fine journalist.
He should win some kind of award for his journalistic skill.
You know?
He's really very professional for a potato. He reads very well. He's got a good organizational skill. He's good.
He could win a Peelitzer. Okay, that's a potato pun right there. Peelitzer, because they have peels. Yeah, you don't know?
What about a Spuddy?
Oh, I would like that.
Maybe at the end of the year, we'll have to see.
We will see. Anyway, I feel like an award winner every time I do this Facebookio program of the stream. It's called Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wonderful, adorable wife, Joyce, Mawa. I shall see you later, my dear. I also want to hang for Inside Broadway.
I'm going to...
Oh, have fun. But, hun,
what?
You know what else we're doing today? What? We have story time. Guess what our story is?
Oh, vegetable food.
In honor
what are you up to?
Potato. We haven't started it yet.
Do you want me to pick the word?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention, we got story time.
Okay, yeah. The word is evident. Clear to the vision and understanding.
Evident.
Manifest, distinct, obvious, apparent.
Okay. Evident. I'm just going to write that down so I remember. But evident, that will be the word of Dave's Big Dictionary. Boy, I didn't even tell you guys what was going to be on the show. And then there's this. I can just show this. I haven't really downloaded the MP3 yet. But even though the radio station at the university is, at least for the time being, defunct and on hiatus and stuff, and even though my name is still attached to it as like the former manager, but we still get the occasional piece of music and CD and artists who are in town, their concerts, or they want us to promote or play their music on the radio station, which is basically just playing old episodes of Dave's Gone By right now. But sometimes we get CDs. Last week we got this one. I guess I could show this right again. Where did I put it? Oh no. Oh, I think I threw it back in my bag. Hold on. Don't go away. But wait, there's more. Two or 3 weeks ago, we got this magnificent CD from this woman who is whispering something filthy to a unicorn on the cover. An album called New Orleans is Sinking, or it's actually an EP thing. So that was a couple of weeks ago, and now we get these guys. Like, this is really going to appeal to a bunch of 17 to 22-year-olds attending a Colorado university, guys who are my age, and look like this. And sort of like, I'm sorry about the backlighting and stuff. I could probably take it out of the plastic. But, the guy on the bass there, he looks like he's about to take a shit. This other guy was cool back in 1971. And there's this. Who are they? They're Super Synth Fever Syndrome. And they do synth rock. And this was recorded back in 2007. And yet they gave us this to go into our audio library at UNC. I'm going to, maybe if I get a chance over the next 2 weeks, I'll open it and download an MP3 and share it with you. But yeah, I can sure see them overtaking Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar on the charts and appealing. God, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, we're doing Dave's Gone By. Welcome to Joan and Phyllis and Frank and Tony and Art Paul. Art Paul, who always has new music out. Let me see. Did I download? I had some Art Paul new music. No, that was like a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, all you got to do is go find him on the interwebs, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of songs and new stuff coming out all the time. He says, what about my German version of My Cat Was Taking a Bath? That was it. My Cat. Did I download it to here? Was it mine, maybe? Mine. Here it is! Yes! Yes, we do have it. Thank you for reminding me, Art Paul. So before we get into Inside Broadway and theater, where I'll be talking about all the stuff that's going on Broadway. Some sad news for Broadway people. Not only a couple of people died, but a Broadway show announced that it's going to be closing in a week or two. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, this is a cover version of an Art Paul Schlosser song. The original song was called My Cat Was Taking a Bath. This is the German version by a fellow named Kirk Moore. And I think Facebook will actually let us play this thing through. It's about a minute and a half. Here's Meine Katze nahm ein Bad. Meine Katze nahm ein Bad from Kirk Moore.
Ich fuhr spät nach Hause in der Nacht, als ich in meinem Haus war, sah ich ein Licht und als ich reinkam, direkt vor meinem Augen. Meine Katze nahm ein Bad, meine Katze nahm ein Bad, es war wieder vor 3 und ich glaube nie, meine Katze nahm ein Bad, meine Katze nahm ein Bad. Nun vielleicht hatte ich etwas zu trinken oder vielleicht konnte ich einfach nicht denken. Aber meine Mutti sah es out und sie sagte natürlich, das ist echt, meine Katze. Nahm ein Bad, meine Katze. Nahm ein Bad, es war wieder vor 3 und ich glaube nie, meine Katze. Nahm ein Bad, meine Katze. Nahm ein Bad, meine Katze. Nahm ein Bad, meine Katze.
That's pretty bouncy right there. That is the German version of My Cat Was Taking a Bath, written originally by our friend of the Daverhood, Art Paul Schlosser, and then covered there by Kirk Moore here on... Where else are you going to hear that? Ever. It was actually kind of cool. So thank you, Art Paul, for reminding me about that. Welcome again to Steve. Hi. Steve says, hi, Dave. Hi, Steve. Yes, Carl Gottlieb, speaking of Germanic, Carl Gottlieb will be talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon in just a little bit on this program. Also, Gina says, or Gina tuned in, and also Robert from my old high school. And David from my high school from before, and Tony with two different Tonys listening, and Rita, and so many cool people. So glad you tuned in, because we have so much more to do. Yes, we've got Rabbi Sol and Carl Gottlieb. We have our story time. We'll be doing at least part of Vegetable Friends in honor of Potato Day. We will have a brand new Dave's Big Dictionary, where I'll be talking about the word evident, and, and a Colorado Limerick of the Damned for the word Boulder. So, oh my goodness, so much to do. So much to time, so little to do. Let's begin then with Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go every week here because, I've been a theater critic for about 30 years. I'm a playwright, award-winning playwright, and actor and director and theater journalist and all that stuff. So I love the theater, I love sharing it, and I'm from New York. So I care about Broadway, and I hope I can make you care a little bit about Broadway too. But we're going to start actually locally. We're going to start in Denver. Just want to let you know that coming soon to a theater near you, if you're in Colorado, it's the national tour of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. Now, that show's been on Broadway for about 4 years. It's still playing, still going strong, and it's actually very good. Of all the jukebox musicals, I think it's one of the best and one of my favorites. Well, they're going to bring the tour to the Ellie Calkins Opera House at the Denver Center next week, September 4th through the 9th, Tuesday through Sunday. So it's got a book by our friend of the Daverhood, Douglas McGrath, songs, of course, by Carole King with Jerry Goffin, as well as their rival writing team, Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. So if you haven't seen Beautiful, the Carole King musical, you haven't been to Broadway, come see it in Denver on tour next week. Now, speaking of Broadway, I did mention before some not unexpected, unfortunate news about a new musical on Broadway. They really tried. A very enterprising and ubiquitous producer named Ken Davenport co-wrote a musical called Getting the Band Back Together. And it opened just about 2-3 weeks ago on Broadway. This is kind of this cool thing of these middle-aged, schlumpy guys who were in a band back in high school. They've gone their separate ways, they have lives, and now they want to get the band back together. Boom. So they open it, they figure they're going to get that bridge and tunnel crowd. They think it's going to be a light, fun, zany sort of piece with pump and pop and rock music. Just, it did not catch on, and the critics hated it. So it's going to close on Sunday, September 16th. You have another 2 weeks to catch it, after only 30 previews and 40 regular performances at the Belasco Theater. It actually opened on August 13th. So, and this guy, Davenport, I mean, he's out there. He's got a blog about producing. He's trying to read new scripts. I mean, yeah, he's the new breed of producer, and he's had some success. He's got money in kinky boots, so he doesn't have to necessarily worry about the occasional big flop. But this is a big flop. And Davenport and the critics make fun of him for this. He went on Broadway and started the show by doing a monologue and trying to get audiences hepped up about getting the band back together. And everybody said, oh, that just feels amateurish. It feels like, I don't know. When I go off Broadway, the artistic director or some staffer will come out and do the pitch for buying season tickets, and they'll make some jokes. One of the best parts sometimes of seeing shows at the York Theater Company is when their artistic director, Jim Morgan, who's a friend of the Daverhood, he'll come out and do a really fun and knowledgeable curtain speech, and I almost want the speech to go on longer than the show. So anyway, this guy, Davenport, did it for getting the band back together. Didn't help. So he wrote on his blog, quote, we were thinking about keeping it going. Additional monies might have done that, but it would not have gotten us to profitability quickly enough. We got some good reviews out of town, but I didn't expect the New York reviews to be so, mean. Really, Ken? You've been in New York all these years. You know who the critics are, and you've seen what they can do to a show they don't like. They eviscerate it. Anyway. So, Davenport says, I had to check my emotion at the door and analyze this like any CEO would. In business, when the data is on the wall, actually, the data are on the wall, Ken, sometimes there's nothing else you can do. Actually, there is one more thing I can do. Start over. Do another one, and you can bet that I will. And boy, oh boy, that is the spirit. And so, my condolences to Ken Davenport for his show tanking, but at the same time, that spirit, that saying, hey, I've had hits, I've had flops, that's the nature of Broadway. Next a year or two, I'll be back. Yeah, that's the spirit. So, anyway, you have about 2.5 more weeks to see Getting the Band Back Together on Broadway at the Belasco Theater. Now, speaking of Broadway, if you want to keep tabs on the shows that are starting previews or opening or closing, or shows that may or may not come to Broadway in the seasons ahead, you're going to want to get yourself a copy of this fine, fabulous, funky journal, Performing Arts Insider. It's been the Bible of Broadway since 1944. So, yeah, okay, so got a nice, pretty cover there. I think I even have a new one. I think I have the September issue. So if you can hang for a moment. Keep hanging. Here we go. Look at this. Brand spanking new on the newsstands now. This new edition. So this is one from a few weeks ago. Now here's a new one. Look at this great picture of Janet McKeer on the September 1st issue of Performing Arts Insider. She's in this show written by Teresa Rebeck called Bernhard's Hamlet that will be opening in September. So you can go see it. Look at this way cool cover of the magazine. But let's look in the magazine. That's what it's all about. We do this every week now. You got the guide to when shows are opening on Broadway or the shows that are still running. You've got a guide to Broadway theaters and their tenants. Every single theater. How many seats are in it? Is it a Schubert, a Niederlander? Is it a Jujamson or something else? When are shows starting, previews, closing, and opening? And then more stuff. Who's handling those shows? You have a question about them. You want to contact one of the designers or the authors or the actors. These are the press people. These are the folks who are handling every Broadway show. Their addresses, their emails, their phone numbers. Now we get to the heart of the magazine, the listings, day by day. A calendar listing of every single show, either now running or about to run on Broadway. Same thing, and this is the thing you can't really get anywhere else. Same thing for all the off and off Broadway shows. I mean, this is just dozens and dozens of shows listed chronologically. I don't know anywhere else you can actually get that. Then, in this particular issue, a guide to awards and special events that are coming up in September. Day-by-day awards, and so this even goes beyond September. And now, we have the heart of the magazine, here's the guts. Every single show on Broadway, tons of information about it, all the people involved, all the producers and how to contact them, the theater that they're in, the dates for every show, for the 30 or 40 shows that are running on Broadway. Then the next section is all the shows that will be running on Broadway over the next few months. And then, again, off and off Broadway. All of that, plus an index, plus a table of contents. This has, we brought back our cabaret guide. So if you want to know what's playing on the major cabaret stages of New York, we have calendar listings of that too. So much and much more in Performing Arts Insider 21 times a year. You want to find out more, go to performingartsinsider.com. Performingartsinsider.com. I'm not going to lie to you, it's an expensive publication, but the people who buy it, they renew, subscribe over and over again. It's the only place that can get all this incredible Broadway information. It's Performing Arts Insider. And by the way, thank you also to the Performing Arts Insider parent company, Total Theater, for doing the wonderful website TotalTheater.com, which has tons of free reviews from New York and all over America and all over the world. TotalTheater.com. Okay, let's get back to our Inside Broadway segment about the theater as we come upon the 10:30 mark here, Mountain Time. What else do I have to tell you? Well, I've got, invariably now, it's like the second half of this segment is all sad news and farewells and obituaries. And these folks don't get the John McCain treatment where they're on 24/7 for 8 weeks until they put him in the ground. This is like, let's make sure to give these people credit. For example, Freddie's dead, as we say. Farewell to Fred Wayne, age 93, who died on Monday. He was already in assisted living. He started as a mailboy in the Hollywood studios. He got drafted, and while he was in the military, he created one of their most popular shows during World War II. It was called G.I. Carmen. As a matter of fact, it was second only to the Irving Berlin This Is the Army show during World War II in terms of popularity. And when he couldn't find anybody to play Carmen in this joyous, spoofy Carmen musical, Fred Wayne played it himself. So post-war, he settled in New York, took acting classes at the American Theater Wing, and then he got a minor role in the hit Broadway musical Texas Lil Darlin', which had a score by Johnny Mercer. His other Broadway credit was a one-week flop comedy by Elmer Rice called Not for Children. And then Wayne went on to do some live TV during the 50s, theater in London and across America. But, you know, if you stay with it long enough, you find that niche. You find the one thing that you actually can make a living in, hopefully, and do. And his was Benjamin Franklin. He put together a one-man show about Ben Franklin, started doing it in various places, ended up doing it all across America, all across Europe. He was on TV specials doing the character. He was on a Bob Hope special playing Benjamin Franklin. So, again, a man, you never heard of him, you never heard of Fred Wayne, probably, but he made his living in what we love, in the theater, so we bid him a fond farewell. Now, someone sort of... not that connected to theater, but a pretty major name in dance, passed away this week. Paul Taylor, born back in 1930, died a couple of days ago. I'm not a dance person. I really don't know enough about it. I just can't get into it. Why am I mentioning Paul Taylor? Well, because he was major. He was an enfant terrible when he first came up and started doing... There was, I think... He did a dance that the critic hated so much he just printed a blank review. But he did make it to Broadway. As a matter of fact, as a performer, he danced with Martha Graham when their company was on Broadway in 1960. He choreographed the 1974 Broadway stint of Rudolph Nureyev. And then Paul Taylor Dance Company did play Broadway's Billy Rose Theater back in 1976. So Paul Taylor got... a Kennedy Center honor in 1992, a National Medal of the Arts in 93, and France's Légion d'Honneur, one of those Jerry Lewis type things. Paul Taylor got that as well. The one thing that it made me think of, and it made me a little sad about Broadway, is that back in the day, back when they had trouble filling all the Broadway houses and the Broadway landscape was so different, a dance company could come into New York and take over a theater for about 2 or 3 weeks. So you get a Martha Graham company, you get a Paul Taylor, you get a Palaboulos coming in, and then they had their niche audience. It wasn't much wider than that. But they could also go a little bit for a broader Broadway audience, and you could see a dance troupe on Broadway for 14 or 21 performances or something like that. And that doesn't happen anymore. There's other places that the dancers go. There's the Baryshnikov Center, and they've got the kitchen. There are other places for modern and regular dance. But you just don't see Broadway dance companies getting a free theater for a couple of weeks. And I think that's kind of a loss. That's kind of a shame, even though I admit dance bores me to shit. Anyway, we do have one more major farewell to do on this Inside Broadway. This is huge. This is farewell to maybe the greatest commercial playwright in the history of Broadway, Neil Simon. And wouldn't you know, I didn't even realize this, that Neil Simon was born on the 4th of July, back in 1927. He was 91 years old when he died last Saturday, August 25th, complications from pneumonia, renal failure, and he was also suffering from Alzheimer's, which may be why you figure someone who's a playwright would write up until the very last minute. But I guess over the past 5 or 10 years, that was not really possible. His wife, Elaine Joyce, and 2 daughters were there at his bedside. So, I mean, I've got connections personally to Neil Simon, even though I never met the man. Of all my years, back when I was writing for the place that I will not name, but I was a theater journalist for them, and a journalist for StageBuddy.com, and writing for Theater Week, and for TotalTheater.com, and having my radio show. I never talked to Neil Simon. I don't know why. Kind of sad that never happened. At the same time, I get the feeling he was not the nicest person, so maybe it's for the best, and I could admire from afar. But I do know that my life would have taken a very different turn had it not been for Neil Simon. I know that in my senior year of high school, when I was thinking of who I wanted to be as a person, right, I was casting about. I knew I wanted to be creative. I thought I wanted to make movies. I didn't know. And I knew, as shy and eccentric a kid as I was, that I had a performative aspect to myself. So just by sheer whatever, I tried out for the school play in my senior year of high school. Not the school musical, because I don't have that kind of a voice for musical theater. But the school play was Neil Simon's 1961 comedy, Come Blow Your Horn. And it was his first hit. You know, he had written for Your Show of Shows. He already had a name as a comedy writer and a TV person. But this old Jewishy show about this man and his waxed fruit that he does for a job, and he's got these two sons, and one is a shy nebbishy guy like me, and the other is more of a playboy guy who's got all these girlfriends and stuff, and he's trying to shape one son up into something decent and the other son to run his wax fruit company, when he's ready to retire. And then there's the nagging Jewish mom. I mean, it's funny stuff, and we rehearsed that sucker. We rehearsed more than any Broadway show ever does. Most Broadway shows get about 3-4 weeks. They get a couple of weeks of rehearsal, 3 weeks of previews, boom, you're in. We rehearsed that fucking play for about 3 months. Because it was high school. It was our after-school activity. And our director, Randy, he was great. But he ran us into the ground to the point where we were almost too conversant. We got too slick with it. Because we were just on autopilot at a certain point. We'd done it 6 days a week after school, every day, writing scene after scene. And still, by the time the audience got to it and they saw it, we rocked. We were great. And the thing about Come Blow Your Horn was, when I auditioned, I was sure that if they were going to cast me as anything, I was going to get cast as the nebbishy, nerdy, virginal younger brother and by the way, someone who was watching or was watching earlier played the other brother in the show, which is kind of wonderful. So there's someone from my high school who was in Come Blow Your Horn, who was tuned in earlier on to this broadcast. And then what was interesting is the director, he was giving us directions in our auditions, because I think we had to do a short monologue that we pre-did, and then we had to be ready to do improv and do other stuff. And he asked me to do Yosemite Sam, to play Yosemite, to make believe I was Yosemite Sam. And what an actor does instinctively. If you let your shyness take over, if you let your real personality take over, you get scared. But if you just sort of jump into it, you have to. And so I suddenly became Yosemite Sam. I squatted down. I had my guns going. Put the boys like this. And wouldn't you know, I got a call back. Or even, I don't even remember if there was a callback or I just got the role. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be this nerdy brother. And then I suddenly see, no, they cast me as the angry, fuming Jewish dad. That director saw in me stuff I didn't even know was in me. But it worked. I came out there, I was guns blazing, I was shaking the kid by the collar, and I was this formidable, scary, relentlessly angry, old school ghetto Jewish father. And I loved the experience, and I had a wonderful time playing comedy and playing that Neil Simon show, Come Blow Your Horn. So that's the first Neil Simon connection for me. And then in later years, of course, I would see Neil Simon shows. Hey, babe, how you doing?
Segue, your neighbor.
Yeah, I'll say hi to him in a bit. Later, and then, of course, I got to see Neil Simon plays in the theater. As a matter of fact, I was there. Let me just say bye to my wife. Love you, sweetie. Oh. Joyce is panting. I like that. Save that for later. Thank you, sweetie. I'll see. Ow, don't hit. Okay. Love you, sweetie.
Oh, call me when you're done.
I will. Okay.
Love you, honey.
Love you too. A little personal time there with the missus. So, the interesting thing about Neil Simon's comedies, and in fact our friend of the Daverhood, Jesse Green, who is the co-chief critic of the New York Times, theater critic of the New York Times, he wrote a piece this past week about Neil Simon passing, and that really still Simon's best work, his most overall successful work, were his early zany comedy plays, like, of course, The Odd Couple, like The Sunshine Boys, to an extent Chapter 2, which was a bit more serious, Star Spangled Banner, Barefoot in the Park. I mean, he just had hit after hit after hit. And then he sort of ran into a little little fallow period. He had that God's Favorite, which is his first real flop, as it were. And something happened. He started to write a little more autobiographically and a little more personally. And he reflowered in a way that, for me, overshadowed even those wonderful early plays. And I got to see in the theater Brighton Beach Memoirs. And got to see, I missed Biloxi Blues, although they make a great film of it. And Broadway Bound was there. And then what I think is his crowning achievement, Lost in Yonkers. I will never forget Mercedes Rule in that play, which was funny as anything and touching and scary. He was writing on a level there. I wish he had stayed there, because those 4 plays were kind of great. Okay? And after that, started to go down. But rumors, farcical, not on the level of his early stuff. Laughter on the 23rd Floor, he tried to grasp it again, where he's writing about what it was like to write Your Show of Shows, with lunatics like Sid Caesar and Imogen Kokai, who was renaming them. But what it meant to be in a writer's room of lunatics. But even that show was not bad, but I wish he'd written it 10 or 15 years earlier. It was already wasn't what it could have been. And then a lot of his later work was pretty negligible, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. But even so, if any other play, people denigrate Neil Simon. They look, that commercial boulevard playwright, he's a joke machine, it's sitcoms, and now everybody writes for TV sitcoms that way instead, and he started that, and nobody pays attention to. And people will probably, come down on me for this. If Neil Simon was gay and wrote gay plays, then we would have him on TV like John McCain right now. Because then, you have to have certain topics now in the theater for anybody to pay attention. But since Neil Simon was old school 1950s Jewish jokes and heterosexual relationships, is sort of like, that's old, nobody cares about that anymore. They revived Brighton Beach Memoirs a few years ago, and it was a beautiful revival. It was funny and touching. It was Laurie Metcalf, because everybody sees her as a Jewish mom, but she was great. And the producer, Manny Eisenberg, was a close friend of Neil Simon. He was going to revive Brighton Beach Memoirs with Broadway Bound. So what happened was he was going to run that for a few weeks and then bring in Broadway Bound and then run them in repertory together. But nobody came. Nobody cared. Neil Simon was forgotten, essentially. Only, 15 years after he's still the most famous, most important playwright in commercial Broadway history. And it makes me so mad. And yet, at the same time, I have to be honest and admit that Neil Simon, I went the other way too. When I was writing about theater on Long Island, or I had to write stories about shows that were being done in community theaters, and not the big regional theaters, but in theaters across cities, when students would be doing theater, or little summer theater groups would get together, and invariably they were all doing Last of the Red Hot Lovers. They were all doing The Odd Couple. They do the occasional Bernard Slade play. They find a couple of other things here and there. Veronica's Room by Ira Levin. But they're doing what Neil Simon are they doing again? For the 50th time, because, this town's doing Last of the Red Hot Lovers, and the town right over is doing Plaza Suite. Whoopee! What exciting, interesting theatrical programming that our theaters are doing across the country. So even I had that bit of envy crossed with, for crying out loud, so many people are writing plays, good, interesting new plays about different things. Why the fuck are you reviving this play from 1970, blah, blah, blah. And yet, in retrospect, Neil Simon was a brand, man, and remains one. Neil Simon is like, you have a community theater, and your audience is, well, now it would be 60 plus, but back in the day, 45 plus. You're going to get the laughs. That play works. They're coming into that theater in the mood to laugh, and you're not going to disappoint them with a show like The Odd Couple or The Sunshine Boys or even, Chapter 2. I think I Ought to Be in Pictures was just a movie. But shows like that, they work. They still work. They will probably always work if they're done well. Now, they might not always work on Broadway with the big flashy lights on the marquee and the big stars and the expectations for a $150 ticket. So when they brought back Barefoot in the Park a few years ago on Broadway, it was terrible. The show didn't seem to work anymore. But maybe in a small 100-seat theater, it still works like gangbusters. So I don't think that the jury's still out on Neil Simon. I think Neil Simon will always be Neil Simon, but I think he needs to be re-respected, rediscovered. And when we get through worshiping the playwright of the month flavors that we do, and saying, oh, this person's so important because they're writing about ethnicity issues and gender issues and racial issues, and then we get back to it, it's like, this guy wrote about human beings, and he wrote in a funny way about quandaries that we find ourselves in. What if we're stuck, if not in a living situation with someone who's the exact opposite? I'm a neat freak, he's a sloppy person. What if you work with someone like that? Okay. What if you're in a nursing home with someone you're trying to get along with or not get along with, and now you have to do the thing that you were famous for, but the thing that also broke you apart? Okay. What if you're getting over divorce, as in Chapter 2, right? What if? What if you're newlyweds, and everything's so rosy and wonderful, except, marriage goes in different directions, as in Barefoot in the Park. Yeah. Rediscover. I hope the right people figure out ways to rediscover and honor Neil Simon. I didn't need to tell you all this stuff about him, man. Oh, another Neil Simon thought for me. Yeah, because I'm going off on this, because he was important. Really important. Another link to my childhood. One of my favorite memories of staying over in my aunt and uncle's apartment. They're divorced now, but my aunt and uncle had a New York City apartment. Because I lived in Brooklyn and then moved out to Long Island. But when I was a kid, I got to stay over there sometimes and wake up and look out and see the vista of Manhattan. And I remember this was late 1970s. I was in my early teens. And HBO had just started. And HBO was nothing. I mean, HBO was about 3 movies a week that they would run uncut, unedited, and they would just rerun them over and over. And I remember watching The Prisoner of Second Avenue on HBO. And it was only a year or two old at that point, that film. And just seeing it, and they didn't bleep the occasional dirty word, and there wasn't a commercial every 15 minutes. It was just like, oh, cool. And it was just that experience, that New York experience that was so different kind of from, in a way, of what I was getting in my little Brooklyn shell at that point. And I thank my aunt and uncle for that. And I thank Neil Simon for that little memory of my life. And we all thank Neil Simon. Harvey Fierstein said upon Simon's passing, he could write a joke that would make you laugh, define the character, the situation, and even the world's problems. That was it. That was it. All in one line. That's what a great playwright does. And Simon came out of a difficult childhood. His parents were struggling marriage and were struggling all the time with money out of the Depression. I forgot, he wrote for the Phil Silvers Show. So not only did he do Your Show of Shows, but he wrote the Sergeant Bilko Show. He co-wrote that with his brother Danny. And Danny was supposed to be the funny one. Go figure, right? Let's see. What else? He won 3 Tony Awards out of 17 nominations. He has a theater named after him. Not many people have. Stephen Sondheim has one. August Wilson has another. London Fontanne, they've got theirs. But not too shabby. He was married 5 times. So there was something dark underneath that facade of comedy. His first wife died of cancer. That led to the writing of Chapter 2. And then he was also married to Marcia Mason, of course, for a while. And then, as we said, his current wife, Elaine Joyce, was at his bedside when he passed. And this is so cool. I mean, I never met Neil Simon, but I know the press agent Bill Evans. And Bill Evans, big friend of Neil Simon, helped PR a lot of his shows. They got along well. They were symbiotic. And in 2004, when Neil Simon needed a new kidney, Bill Evans gave him one. And that bought him another 14 years. I mean, I don't know how many of those he was dealing with Alzheimer's and other things. But that is a solid, man. That is, to do that for a playwright friend, considering what, the relationship that playwrights have with critics and sometimes press agents, to go that distance for a playwright is a pretty cool thing. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh my God, I didn't even mention the musicals. Neil Simon's known as a playwright, but he had a hand in hit musicals too. Like they're playing Our Song, the show that our friend Robert Klein was in many years ago. He also co-wrote Promises, Promises, and I didn't know this. He was a show doctor on a chorus line. If you go on the chat rooms for Broadway, you can see them bantering back and forth of saying, well, what line is obviously a Neil Simon line there? And they start arguing about, well, this one definitely, that got to be Neil Simon. He had to put that line in there. He fixed this. He changed that. So, I mean, even in ways we don't know about, Doc Simon was the man. And he wasn't called Doc because he doctored scripts. He was called Doc back as a teenager because he was an owlish little fellow with these glasses. So they make fun of him that he looked like a doctor. He also wrote the movies Murder by Death and The Goodbye Girl, which was adapted, of course, into the Broadway musical The Goodbye Girl, which was, if you read Michael Riegel's column in the New York Post from a day or two ago, that was the one that really broke his heart the most as a playwright. That was the flop that just hurt him and made him almost stop writing, because all the elements should have been there. You had Martin Short, you had Bernadette Peters, you had a hit film that people loved, and yet it just did not. I saw The Goodbye Girl. It did not come together. I love Martin Short. So, yeah, that hurt him. And it wasn't his only flop, but that was the one that really got to Neil Simon. But anyway, again, he's, his last major work was Rose's Dilemma. It was an off-Broadway play that he did, and Mary Tyler Moore, we remember this, she was supposed to star in it, and she was having issues remembering the lines, and it was taking a little heavy into the rehearsal and almost preview process where she wasn't getting her lines down. And Neil Simon wrote her like this public, almost, letter, castigating her and telling her, learn your lines, and she quit. She's like, I don't know. She's Mary Tyler Moore. She doesn't need to take this. And she'd probably give her another week or two, or maybe an earpiece, like some of these other actors used. She would have been fine. But instead, they recast the show, and it wasn't a hit anyway off-Broadway. So, you take the good and the bad with people. And maybe Mary Tyler Moore's payback to Neil Simon was that he got Alzheimer's and couldn't remember anything in the last stages of his life, perhaps. But we remember his greatness. We remember the laughs. We remember the amazing moments from The Odd Couple and The Odd Couple TV show, which wouldn't have existed without his original play. Neil Simon, a big farewell. And so to bid him farewell, we've got our friend of the Daverhood, Jill O'Hara. She was in the original 1968 Broadway cast of Promises, Promises, co-written by Neil Simon, and her song, Whoever You Are.
Sometimes your eyes look blue to me, although I know they're really green. I seem to see you differently.
Hi, this is Carl Gottlieb, screenwriter and author. I'm talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon on Dave's Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, damn it. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon. Delighted to be here with a fish story for you. No, I'm not going to be talking about a little fish turning into a big fish. We're going to be talking about a big fish from the beginning that sometimes didn't even work, but they got it to work, and it turned into this multi-million-dollar movie called Jaws that was co-written by the person we have on the telephone with us. His name is Carl Gottlieb. He's written for television shows like All in the Family and Bob Newhart and The Odd Couple. He also co-wrote The Jerk with Steve Martin. He directed that movie Caveman, if you remember that. So, oh boy, we are coming out of our caves to talk delightedly to Carl Gottlieb. Welcome to the Daverhood and Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. B'sheretz, we should be talking.
It is Bashert, and it's lovely to talk to you. So, it's scary to ask an author because they don't necessarily want to say, but what are you working on right now?
Funny you should ask. I just finished a screenplay. It's a musical about vaudeville in 1916 in Australia, about a couple of landsmen from Brooklyn who stowed away on a ship to get work in vaudeville in the British Empire back in the days of the First World War, before America was in the war. And they were taken off the ship in chains in Auckland, New Zealand, because the skipper of the boat on which they stowed away thought they were German spies, when in fact they were Hebrews from New York, as the newspapers of the day referred to them. And of course, the Jewish community of Auckland found them a couple of smart lawyers. They played the piano in the courtroom and convinced the judge they weren't spies, but stowaways looking for work. He allowed them to take a job in local vaudeville, where they killed for the next 2 years, billed as the stowaways, and that's the name of the musical. It sounds like it should be fun, so if there's any producers out there with checkbooks, contact the rabbi, we'll put us in touch.
Well, but here's the deal. You've written this just because you wanted to. It was not a commission. You're not hired by a studio. You just got intrigued by this true story and wanted to write the screenplay?
Yes, my ex-wife, with whom I'm still partners and friends, it was her Uncle Lou who was the songwriter, and he's the guy who wrote Are You Lonesome Tonight?, the Elvis Presley hit.
Oh, my goodness.
That was written back in 1922 after his experiences down under.
This is more and more amazing as I hear about it. By the way, what happened? They killed, you said, for like 2 years in vaudeville. Something go bad after that?
No, the whole time that they were in Australia, people kept saying, when are you Yanks coming into the war? Because the Aussies had been fighting since 1914. The Anzacs suffered terrible casualties at Gallipoli, and everybody was looking to America. And Uncle Lou said, look, if America joins the war, I'm going to join the army and protect my family. And sure enough, in 1917, America entered the war, and Lou gave up the beautiful girl with whom he was accompanying and his partner, and signed up for the draft, joined the army, trained as a machine gunner. This is kind of an epilogue.
Yeah.
And then found himself assigned to Camp Upton, Long Island, where Sergeant Irving Berlin was putting together a soldier show.
Oh, my God.
Uncle Lou was a songwriter and a piano player, so he got the job as being piano player for Irving Berlin, who liked his songs and urged him to keep writing and publish. And in 1922, he wrote Are You Lonesome Tonight?
Well, so he had a wonderful life ahead of him. What about the other guy?
We never heard from him again. He was Dutch. He went back to Holland and never turned up in the press again.
Speaking of the Judaism aspect, I'm going to ask, how were you raised? Your name is Gottlieb. I assume you are a member of the tribe, as you said, is Bashert. So, were you Orthodox, Conservadox, Middle-dox, No-dox, what?
So, practicing atheist, actually. 3 generations of my family declined their Jewish heritage, partly because of the pogroms in Kishinev, where some of my people were from, and others because they were just, opportunists, and never missed an opportunity to pass as Christian. So I was raised essentially with no functioning religion, although I was in a Jewish neighborhood in Washington Heights in New York, where a lot of Jewish refugees settled right after the World War II, among them Henry Kissinger.
Oh.
But that was when it was called Frankfurt on the Hudson, because a lot of Ashkenazi German Jews settled there when those who survived could come over. And my sister married an observant Jew and broke with family tradition for the first time in 3 generations. Jewish mother raised 4 kids kosher, all the kids keep kosher, and the only time I ever have real kosher food is when I go to my sister's house.
Mit Mazel. So also you mentioned that you have an ex-wife, but are you married again? Did you have children?
Nope. Didn't have children. Didn't have an opportunity to raise them in the church. My cousin is with whom I share, my father and my uncle were brothers who were both baptized in Europe and weren't told that they were Jewish until they came to America. They didn't even know. They went to Boy Scout camp as Christians. They went to Christian schools. And then they came to America, and the dad said, oh, by the way, you're Jewish. So it came as a surprise to them, too. As my accountant once said when I was protesting, I would say, no, I'm not really Jewish. Technically I'm Jewish because my mother and her mother and her mother, they were Jewish. So my accountant cut right through it. He said, all right, Hitler walks through the door, sees you. Does he kill you or not?
Yeah.
I had to reluctantly admit, I suppose he'd kill me.
Yeah, you would definitely, He would torture me first and then kill me. You would just kill. So you pass a little bit more than I do, I have to say. But Carl Gottlieb, you're known, of course, as a writer, and you've done some directing as well, but you were performing. As a matter of fact, weren't you part, before anything else, when you went west, to the West Coast, you were on the committee back then. Can you tell us a little about that?
Oh, well, that was my favorite creative experience of all time to this day. I got out of the Army. My friend had already gotten a job as an actor in the company. They needed a stage manager. I got released from military service. I went to San Francisco in 1963. The company had no stage manager. They were working their own lights, and they needed a stage manager. So I became that stage manager, and then a year or two later, I became an actor in the company, and then as an actor, we did very well, and then the company put together a touring show that opened in Los Angeles, where we played successfully for a couple of years. And that's where Tommy Smothers saw me on stage and was looking for new writers for his summer replacement television show, the Summer Brothers Smothers show.
Yeah.
He hired me and Rob Reiner and Steve Martin and Bob Einstein and Lorenzo Music and a guy named Paul Wayne and all kinds of young writers. We all were getting our first break in professional comedy writing. But then we were picked up after the Glenn Campbell show to do the Smothers Brothers primetime show where we won an Emmy.
Well, all right, let's roll it back a little bit because these are the bones of your autobiography or your biography. Let's flesh them in a little bit. So when you were on the committee, what was your favorite skit that you were in or that you came up with?
Well, there's two. One where I was a sportscaster. Howard Hessman and I were two sportscasters, presumably in a booth overlooking the jungle, and we would call a play-by-play of the American involvement in Vietnam. and I think I still remember the opening monologue because it was such a torrent of words. It's, hi there, we're high on a hill overlooking a ridge where the 101st Airborne Division tangles for the first time with North Vietnam's crack 7th Regiment. Here comes the HU-1B helicopters of the 101st Airborne settling down. They're laying down a nice base of fire as they hit the ground, and here comes the Vietnamese. They're answering back. I think of landing so cool, Red. And then Red would say, well, you can tell they're up for this one. Both teams, it's high on undefeated and untied so far this season. You can tell the Americans are excited. They're firing long before they've actually seen anybody. And,
That's very... No, I mean, did you co-write or write that sketch, or was it...
No, I co-wrote it with Howard Hessman.
You wrote it with Howard Hessman? Yeah.
And then in that same edition of the show, we did a version of that. You can still find it on YouTube. Very prescient. Remember, this was 50 years ago.
Sure.
A group of us are lined up on stage, except for one person who's sitting, and we're singing the Star Spangled Banner. It's obviously a sporting event, and everybody is like looking at the guy who's sitting. And at first, they kind of tap him politely and remind him that we're singing the Star Spangled Banner. Then they tap him more aggressively. Then they just start shaking him by the shoulder, say, hey, and by the time we get to the land of the free, home of the brave, we've knocked him out of his chair and kicked him to death.
Whoa. That's rather hilarious, right? I mean, certainly, as you said, it's prescient. Who knew that 50 years later, Donald Trump and the NFL would be fighting over the same thing? But wow.
Exactly. Yeah, and we've been closing. We used that piece to close the show for decades.
Was it funny? I mean, it just sounds really dark.
It's funny because the group of performers on stage with our finale. So first of all, the audience is pleased because here's the whole cast on stage for what looks like a musical number. Then we start singing a Star Spangled Banner, and occasionally people in the audience would get up, and then they would notice the guy who was sitting, and the ways that we tried to get his attention were comical, and then insistent, and then angry, and then we kind of crossed the line into mob rage.
Oh, and so Tommy Smothers saw sketches like this that you guys were doing in the committee, and he's like, oh my God, I can put this on CBS TV, right? So I've got to know all these stories about the Smothers Brothers and fighting the censors. So do you have stories, A, about the writer's room of those people that you mentioned who wrote for the show, and also, you know, when you come in and you work and you be so proud of a sketch, and then they come back and say, no, CBS won't, they can't, no.
Yeah, we had that. It was a constant tension between the creative staff and Tommy and what the network used to call program practices, which is essentially the censor. Mason Williams did a piece about it.
Did Tommy Smothers take most of the flack from CBS Brass, or did you ever get involved in any of the fights and the arguments?
The writers were largely insulated from the struggles with the censors. We just would write the sketches, and occasionally we'd throw in some red herrings in the script, you know, some blatantly offensive material, in hopes that the censor would mark that with their pencil and then ignore the joke that we really wanted, which was further down the page.
And did that work?
Occasionally it would work, but eventually they caught on to that. Oh. And then later, as the back and forth about program content escalated, CBS and Tommy, you know, it got to be personal between them until they finally canceled the show.
Yeah.
And then we won the Emmy for Best Comedy Musical Variety for that season.
If only the head of CBS had been Les Moonves, and then anything would have gone. I'm kidding.
Yes.
So, was that devastating? Because you were on basically a very talked-about hit show. Writers and actors and comedy people tend to be unemployed the moment they're not working. Were you scared after that, or did you go right to something else?
Well, most of us were, you know, young and talented and enthusiastic, and we were used to being out of work and then employed, then unemployed, then employed again. Interestingly enough, because CBS had gotten so outraged that when they canceled the show, we had already been picked up for a fourth season. Somebody prevailed on corporate mercy and said, look, we've picked up the contracts of all these writers. They're guaranteed 13 episodes in the fall, and you've canceled the show. Who's going to make good? Everybody's agent was asking the same question. So, as a gesture, CBS agreed to pay the contractual obligations for the show that they canceled, and they would recoup that if they won the lawsuit. But they didn't. They lost. But in the meantime, while we were looking for work, we had 13 episodes worth of income to kind of cushion the fall. That was enough for all of us. You know, we all survived and went on to other things.
Sure. Now, you went on to write for some of the major shows of 1970s television, including All in the Family. What episode did you write?
I wrote a storyline, which I don't remember, which they used, and I don't remember which storyline that was. It was, you know, something about Meathead and his politics, I'm sure. I'm more proud of episodes that I wrote for Newhart and The Odd Couple.
Oh, which Odd Couple did you do?
I did the one where Oscar almost gets married.
So, when you say you did that, were you the main writer? Were you one of two or three? Yeah.
I was the principal writer of that episode. I pitched it. Later, I became, I guess, off the strength of that, I became a story editor for the show. I was employed on The Odd Couple on a weekly basis. I guess it was its third season. I left that show to do this movie that my friend Stephen was going to make in Martha's Vineyard. That turned out to be Jaws. And
now, your friend Stephen, how did you know Steven Spielberg? How did you become friends?
Well, we had the same agent, a guy named Mike Medavoy, who's quite a prominent producer and studio head. But at the time, he was a hustling agent for ICM, or CAA, I forget, one of that alphabet soup.
Yeah.
He was very big on packaging. He was one of the early agents who saw the synergy of putting clients together. So he took two of his young lads with promise. It was me, who was up-and-coming comedy writer, and Steven Spielberg, who was an up-and-coming television director with a lot of good episodes to his credit, but no major features. And the two of us would go out and try to pitch a feature, and we talk stories. Steven employed me as an actor in a couple of his television movies, just as went off and directed the Sugarland Express with Goldie Hawn. That was his first feature. And then when he decided to do his second feature, he asked me if I would be in it first, if I would find a part for myself. And he gave me the script, and I went through it, and I picked the part with a lot of lines. That was part of Harry Meadows, the publisher of the Amity Gazette town newspaper, who's a co-conspirator covering up the shark attack. So I was employed first as a writer, and then he sent me a copy of the script with a note on the cover saying, "Eviscerate it." So I wrote a long critical memo. I made some mistaken assumptions, and I made one.
Well, what do you mean?
Assumption. I said in my memo, I said, "Oh, come on, do we have to have the teenager who goes swimming nude at the beginning get killed? That's such a horror movie cliche. You have sex, you die." But it turns out to be one of the most effective deaths in the history of horror movies, right up there with Janet Leigh's shower scene in Psycho. So I was very wrong there.
And it wasn't all that. Yeah, I mean, the idea of teenagers getting naked and dying early, I mean, that really didn't become a cliche up until like the later 70s and the dead teenager movies. When you guys did it, it still wasn't that frequent. It was only 1974.
Yeah, but I thought, even then, I thought it was a cliche.
Huh.
I can't tell you what I based maybe some Roger Corman films. I don't know.
Mm.
So anyway, that was a mistake. I said, because I said, "Oh, do we have to just punish people for having sex?" And then paragraph down, I write, "If we do our jobs right, people will feel about going in the ocean the way they felt about taking a shower after Psycho."
And that's what happened.
43 years later, whenever I meet someone, I tell them I was involved in the production of Jaws. They kind of shake their finger at me and said, "Because of you, I didn't go swimming for a year. I didn't go in the water. I didn't go to the beach. I didn't go to the lake." I've heard every variation of, "I didn't even go in the bathtub."
Once you because you didn't do the first draft of the script of adapting the Peter Benchley book, but what did you change and suggest and take away? There was like a love triangle that you said, "Oh no, let's not do this."
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Mostly the adaptation of the book into a screenplay, into the finished film, and I was both lucky enough and harassed enough to be on the set, on location, trying to write a few days ahead of the schedule so the actors would have something to say. We discovered very early on that a lot of the stuff that was in the script that had been in the novel was either superfluous or contrary to the on-screen nature of the actors who were portraying the character. I mean, the idea of Hooper cuckolding Brody with the police chief's wife was like, when you saw them on camera, you said, "No, that would never happen." I mean, we wouldn't like him for it. We've cast the wrong actor. It just doesn't play. It was actually in the script the first week of shooting. We hadn't gotten to any of their scenes yet, but that was kind of a holdover from the days when the studio's idea of Hooper was Jan Michael Vincent.
As opposed to Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider playing, yeah.
So we thought, well, they're alone in the boat, they're at sea, they're fighting the shark. Maybe if that sexual tension was there between the police chief and the young oceanographer. And then we said, boy, do we not need that. We got plenty of other fish to fry.
Literally. So it is rather famous that one of the things that Spielberg was most worried about was the mechanical workings of the shark itself. I mean, was there real panic on the set at some point when, for like the fifth time, the thing wouldn't move?
Well, it wasn't panic so much as it was, a deep sense of resignation and what are we going to do until they get the shark working. Because nobody doubted that they would get it working. I mean, it was well designed. It had never been tested in salt water. That was one of the problems.
Oh.
And it was very high maintenance actor, much more than any of the others in the show. For everybody else, it became like a job. It was like, okay, you got to go to work. Is the shark working? No. All right, we're going to have to shoot some dialogue. Is that scene in the house at dinner working? Yes. And then we also said, Steve and I were both familiar with a great old 50s horror movie called The Thing.
That was a Corman,
You don't
right?
see The Thing until like 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's do that. Let's show how horrible the shark is without showing the shark. So you got that incredible death scene at the top of the movie. You got the two guys, on the dock almost being towed out. Then eaten, and they escape. The fish and actually biting somebody in the lagoon and at the beach, and those deaths occur for the most part off camera. All the more scary and terrible because of that. In effect, it was kind of a blessing that we didn't have a shark to show, because Stephen had to use every cinematic trick in the book, plus a few that he invented or utilized for the movie, to keep it interesting.
And the rest is literally cinema history. Can I ask, you were friends with Spielberg, you worked on that movie. Did you work on any other films with Steven Spielberg?
Sadly, no. We finished that picture, and he was immediately immersed in writing Close Encounters. While he was doing that, I was anxious to get my comedy chops back, or my comedy cred, because Jaws was horrible.
Sure.
I was lucky enough to do another rewrite, this time for Richard Pryor, a movie he did called Which Way Is Up, where he played a farm worker. It was based on an Italian socialist movie called The Seduction of Mimi.
Well, by Lina Bertmuller, of course, yeah.
So it was Richard Pryor remade the Lina Bertmuller film with himself as Mimi, the laborer who's caught up in this problem.
Well, do you have any Richard Pryor memories or anecdotes?
Well, I knew him in two phases of his life. When we were doing Which Way Is Up, he was as it turns out, bipolar, and he was on the uptick. He was dating an actress named Pam Grier, wonderful actress.
Oh.
Foxy Brown. She was Jackie Brown for Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
She was a wonderful actress. She did her share of exploitation, women in cages movies. But
as have I.
As a couple, they were clean and sober, and we went off to Barbados. Richard rented a house for us to write in, and he and Pam would play tennis and jog, and I would make notes, and then they'd come back for dinner, and we'd talk about the script. It was an ideal way to write a movie. And we got the script finished, or rewritten, and then a director named Michael Schultz was aboard. We brought the script back and worked on the script, and there's three parts in the movie, and Richard said, I can do all three of those parts. So he did, and it was a very successful Richard Pryor film. Close Encounters started filming, and I was doing The Jerk with Steve Martin.
Oh, well, and there we have a real classic comedy. It really launched Martin as a movie star. And how much writing was divided between Carl Reiner, you, and Steve Martin? Who did what?
And Michael Elias.
Michael Elias, okay.
Michael Elias and I were both performing comics and comedy writers. We both knew Steve from the stand-up days when we all worked in I was in the committee. Steve did nightclubs. Michael Elias had a partner, and they did nightclub comedy. And Michael Elias and his partner went on and created Head of the Class.
Oh, yeah.
A show that starred my friend Howard Hessman after Johnny Fever. So, it's a small world. But in any case, Steve got the writing assignment to write 3 movies for Paramount for himself to star in. Very forward-thinking executive named David Picker made that deal. And Steve asked me, I was again friends with a guy named Stephen who had a budget for a movie, and he said, "Do you want to write it with me?" And I said, "Sure." So we sat down and started writing, and came up with nothing day after day. And after a week or so, had nothing. Steve Martin's manager said to us, "Make it about money. Everybody's interested in money." So we said, "Okay, we'll make it about money." And then another few days went by. And then we were sitting there. We had an office in the writers' building at Paramount. And we'd come in every day, and there'd be a couple of IBM Selectrics humming there, and pencils and paper. It was that era. And nothing would come. And then finally Steve said, there's a line in my act that always gets a big laugh. No matter if the act's going well or poorly, I can always count on this line as a saver. I was born a poor black child. And we both laughed because it's an effective line, especially given Steve's onstage performance as the whitest guy in the world. And then the inspiration struck. Well, what if this white guy was, in fact, born a poor black child? Let's start with my old Kentucky home. Let's start with a shack in the Mississippi Delta where they're singing and playing the blues and doing kind of cliched, darky life. And out of of that grew the movie. And then it went to a point, and then I was written out, and there was a power struggle at Paramount. New regime came in. In the meantime, I had directed Steve in a short comedy called Absent-Minded Waiter, which was nominated for an Academy Award. And so Steve's career was going fine, but Barry Diller and Michael Eisner, who had come in to run Paramount with David Picker, didn't want to be in the Steve Martin business. So Steve's management said,
a 3-movie contract.
How about we let you out of that deal? You give us this screenplay and the short subject, and we'll be done. You won't have to deal with Steve Martin at the studio anymore, and we'll find someplace else to go, which they did. They went to Universal, set up The Jerk, and made it, and made a ton of money. Michael Eisner never apologized. Barry Diller, 10 years later, wrote David Picker a letter saying, you were right about Steve Martin.
Really? It took him 10 years to realize that. Amazing. So let me ask, before we move on to other work that you've done, writing movies in the 1970s, especially these comedies that you did, the movies today, people complain about them. They're all just superheroes. They're all special effects. I mean, that's the cavil that people will have. If you were to teach screenwriting to budding 20-something-year-olds, what would you wish that they were still doing now that maybe they're not?
I wish they were still making, good character-driven movies that were not, high-concept prequels or sequels or reboots or franchises. But I understand the studio's fascination with a product that can make $400 million globally, as opposed to a $30 million picture that might only make $180 million globally, which is good for a studio. If you turn out a lot of those, doubles and triples, if you're not swinging for the fences trying to make a home run every time, you can run a very good studio. But they choose to do it the other way. They have corporate overlords they have to be responsible to. It used to be that the whole mid-range of movies that we enjoyed making, there's just no appetite for them anymore.
Not from audiences, but from
production level. Audience will still go see them, and every year, matter of fact, the Motion Picture Academy just invented a new category for successful films because Academy Awards were going to small, good movies that not many people were seeing because that wasn't how they were distributed. 3 billboards in Hibbing, Minnesota, as opposed to Iron Man 2.
Right.
It's tough.
How many people saw Moonlight? That kind of thing. Or even La La Land. I get what you're saying. How much have you been writing and working in movies for the past 10, 20 years?
I never stopped. I wrote a romantic comedy a couple, 3 years ago that in 1980 or 90 would have starred Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. But now, after the turn of the new century in 2010, there was not much of an appetite for it, so it's going to wind up being an independent production.
Okay.
But it's a great little story. It's called The Trunk. A modern young woman, who has yet another disastrous breakup with a boyfriend, throws all the souvenirs of their relationship and every relationship she's ever been into in a trunk, and takes it out to sea and dumps it after writing, "Please do not return," on the trunk, and kind of exorcises her demons, not realizing that the trunk floats all the way to a fishing village where a young fellow pulls it out of the surf. "Please do not" has rubbed off. It just says "return" with an address. So he takes it on himself to figure out who is this mysterious girl and all these clues that are in the trunk. And he finds her, and she mistakes him, of course, for a stalker. He says, "No," he says, I thought you were in danger. I thought people were after your life." And surprise, it ends happily.
Oh, really? Does it? You gave it away. I was all ready to see it, but no, I'm kidding, of course. So we're talking with Carl Gottlieb, who has written many movies. You've done some directing as well, including a film that starred a Beatle.
Yes, somebody reminded me. They said I worked on a music show called Music Scene with David Steinberg, who was a great fan of Groucho Marx, and he got Groucho to do Music Scene. So Groucho was a guest on the show, and we got to write comedy for him.
Yeah.
And then I worked with Ringo Starr and Caveman
does it feel like?
Well, it certainly gives me a unique place in show business history, but one that others occupy. There's other people who've worked with a Beatle and with a Marx Brother.
Well, were you a Beatles fan? Did it mean anything to you that 1/4 of the most important, famous pop band in the world was in your movie, the movie that you directed, Caveman? Or was he just, I kind of like the Beatles? It didn't really, he was just an actor for you?
For me, he was an actor. I mean, we needed somebody kind of small and nebbishy to play the lead.
Oh, I could do that.
And you and Dudley Moore and Ringo Starr were the contenders. Dudley Moore was busy, and Ringo Starr was happy to do a lead, and it was a wonderful cast. He was opposite Dennis Quaid, Barbara Bach, who was a former Bond girl. She played the bad girl, and the good girl was played by Shelley Long before Cheers. It was quite a company, and John Matuzak, great football player, played the Nemesis, and Jack Gilford was in it too.
Oh, Jack Gilford. Do you have any Jack Gilford stories?
Jack and Madeline were on location with us in Mexico, and we were shooting at Churubusco Studios. It was Passover. So Madeline had a blacklisted Haggadah left over from Jack's radio days in New York when he was very successful, but got blacklisted and had to, couldn't work for a number of years. So they had a family Seder using this socialist Haggadah, and there we were in a Jewish center somewhere in Polanco, which is the Jewish suburb of Mexico City. And the whole company was there, including, such prominent Jews as Dennis Quaid and linebacker for the Oakland Raiders, John Matuzak.
Well, you could call him for that night John Matuzakowitz, and then it would be okay. Let me ask, I remember Caveman. I haven't seen it in many years. I don't think it was quite a hit. Are there movies that you kind of wish the critics liked more or more audiences went to that you feel if people check them out now on Netflix or wherever, they hold up better than we think they might have?
Well, some do, some don't. Current tastes in movies are so warped. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Rob Reiner who I worked with in the old days. And Rob said, if I wanted to make A Few Good Men now, with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, I couldn't get a green light for that movie. They'd say it was a courtroom drama, too talky. Next. So, when we talk about the changing appetite for movies, there you are. I mean, I have favorite films that are either underrepresented or misunderstood, but over time, people realize that they're good. They're good movies, and sometimes they find an audience. But sometimes you just have to, grab people by the arm and take them to a revival house to see a screening of Harry Met Sally, or A Few Good Men, for that matter. A whole lot of great films in the 70s and 80s.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
I have like a Desert Island 10,
Okay.
10 movies I would take with me. I don't know if I can go through all of them, but
a couple.
The two Westerns, The Wild Bunch and Magnificent Seven. Casablanca, of course. It's a Wonderful Life. The General with Buster Keaton, wonderful Civil War silent comedy. My favorite black and white of the studio era was a movie called Prisoner of Zenda with Ronald Coleman, David Niven, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Madeline Carroll, Mary Astor. A wonderful film.
Ooh. Didn't they remake that with Peter Sellers at some point? I think they did.
Yes, it was made with. It was remade. First, there was a shot for shot. It's been remade like 5 times.
Wow.
A couple of times as a silent movie. It was such a powerful novel. Great story. Great story hook. It was remade with Farley Granger at MGM in the 50s, and then it was a 2-part Get Smart episode. Took the plot line by line, and did it, even including the last shot of the hero on a horse. At the height of Hollywood black and white filmmaking, the photography is just crystal clear, and they have the special effects because Ronald Coleman plays 2 parts, so he meets himself. He has to talk with himself in the movie, and they've achieved that quite successfully. It's a real tearjerker. I love it, and and nobody knows it.
That's the thing. All the other films that you mentioned, I'm thinking, of course, that's basically American Films 101. I mean, funnily enough, you didn't mention The Godfather. Everybody says The Godfather, or Goodfellas, or maybe Gone with the Wind, or City Lights.
Yeah, but Godfather 1 and 2 is a pinnacle of filmmaking. That's probably on my top. I mean, Godfather, like Jaws, is one of those movies that when you come across it while you're spinning around the dial, you go, okay, I'll just watch until Sonny gets killed on the causeway, then I'll go back to what I'm doing. And sure enough, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, you watch the whole movie, and you can't wait to see the sequel.
Now, let me ask, is there a movie, a screenplay, that you've written over the past 30, 40 years now that never got made, but you still feel, oh my God, if that would have been such a great film, and it's been in a drawer forever, or it's been on the desk at Paramount somewhere, in the archives?
Oh, yeah, I've got a couple of those. There's a great one I wrote. It would be a great franchise for a limited series on HBO or cable, which didn't exist when I wrote it. Sony owns it. I wrote it as a spec script. They bought it. It was bought by an independent producer who turned around and sold it to Sony as a major film. And for whatever reason, they chose not to make it, but they own it, so it's kind of sitting in a desk somewhere. It's called Wolf and Blood. The elevator pitch is that it's a buddy cop film about a man and a woman detective team who are thrown together in the course of duty, and they each have a guilty secret. He's a werewolf, she's a vampire, and all their lives they've strived to be on the right side. She works at a blood bank as a volunteer, so she doesn't have to kill anybody, and he takes a few sick days every full moon and runs out in the woods and kills coyotes and pests and satisfies his bloodlust that way and comes back to work. Then they discover that the serial killer they're pursuing is from the dark side, and they have an existential dilemma. Do they go to the dark side, which they've resisted all their lives, but that's the only way they're going to catch this guy. So they do the climactic showdown between the werewolf and vampire and this dark force. They win.
Yeah.
Instead of the dark force being thrown from a height onto some, iron railing or burning in a fire, our heroes get to kill him and eat him.
Okay. Was this spoofy, satirical?
This was done as a serious, comic horror adventure.
Okay, because it has elements of both. It could go either way there, but we have been enjoying our guest in the Daverhood, Carl Gottlieb. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, first of all, he's got a Facebook page where you can follow his thoughts and what he's up to. It's carl.gottlieb, and then .3, because Facebook has these ridiculous URLs. But he's also got a book, because I asked him a little bit about Jaws and what it was like to write and work on the movie and be in the movie Jaws. But if you want to know a lot more, there's a book called The Jaws Log that he has written that you can go read.
To this day, it's the best-selling book about the making of a movie ever written. It's been in print since 1975. I've done 25th and 30th and 40th anniversary editions of it, and I've managed to update it with new endnotes, so there's more information now in it than there ever was. So for any Jaws-related questions, go get the Jaws Log wherever books are sold. I try to tell people to go to their neighborhood independent bookstore if they can still find one. And even if they have a few bucks more than Amazon, it's supporting your local bookseller. But if not, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold.
Now, speaking of books, the one thing that I forgot to ask you before, since we were talking about a rock star, about Ringo Starr, is that you helped write not one, but two biographies of another rock star, David Crosby. How did that, where did that come from?
Well, back in the 60s when I was working in comedy in San Francisco, there was a go-go bar up the street from our club called the Peppermint Tree, and the house band at the Peppermint Tree playing for go-go dancers in cages was the Byrds. They had recorded their first album, but it hadn't been released, so they were touring as a bar band. And I met Crosby there because Crosby liked what we were doing, and he wanted to be an actor as much as he wanted to be a musician. So we started hanging out and then stayed friends ever since for the next 50, 60 years, including the dark times when he went to jail and was addicted. And I kind of lived through that with him. And
now, you were a big writer in Hollywood working on these major movies. Were you able to stay away from the drugs and all that scene? Did you stay sober and clean, etc.?
Yeah, well, I don't want to overstate my sobriety, but because we all did stuff. But I am what is known in 12-step circles as a normie. I can take it or leave it. So when everybody was getting high, I got high along with everybody else. The illicit substances to be had, I partook. I don't hide that. But at the same time, when I didn't want, if I didn't want to do it, I didn't. So I was never addicted. It was never a problem. So I was able to keep a clear head when Crosby was plummeting downhill and out of control.
And there was no way to help him to say, David, stop. David, you're going to kill yourself. There's just no way to shake them out of it.
There was a fabulous attempt at intervention where Jackson Brown, out of his own pocket, financed a private plane to fly David down to a rehab center in Southern California. A bunch of us gathered at his house in Mill Valley and ambushed him the way you do with an intervention. All his friends tried to tell him to stop, and he said, okay, I'm going, and he stalled unpacking his bag and stalled, and there was no commercial flights available that would get us to the place where he was booked. Had a room waiting for him at the rehab center. Jackson Brown paid for a private plane to fly him down. He checked himself in. His wife went with him. There was a condition that they go through rehab together. And 2 days later, they checked out and hitchhiked back to San Francisco, and it took a jail sentence to get David to clean up later.
Go figure, that was the best thing that ever happened to him. And you wrote the first book with Crosby, and then the sequel, like after he cleaned up and had all the horrible things, and then he did another book with him. Yeah.
Yeah, the first book, I had lived through all the down periods. I went to visit him in Texas. I'm familiar with Huntsville, Texas, which is the prison capital of Texas, where David did his time. And then he got out, clean and sober, married Jan, managed to get herself, with the help of family, sober. They were happily together. Then came as everybody was saying, David, you should write a book. And he asked me, would I write it with him? So I said, well, I'm not going to do as told to or with, just let's have equal billing because we're both going to write the book together. But we did, and sold it to Doubleday. In 1988, there was a writer's strike. So although I was co-chair of the negotiating committee, I also lost my job at Universal where I was under contract. So I had plenty of time to work on the book, which I did. I interviewed everybody significant in David's life and collaborated with him, and we wrote a book which is kind of a history of the music business, because David, and the Byrds and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young was in the Hall of Fame with two different bands, and that's there's very few people who have that distinction.
So many of the people that we've talked about in this interview, everyone from the Reiners to Steven Spielberg to David Crosby, are you still, I'm not saying you go out and have lunch with them once a week, but are you still in touch?
With some of them. Steven is kind of unapproachable. I say in one of the additions to the Jaws log, that although we see each other from time to time, we're both wearing tuxedos and it's some industry function. So I don't see Steven that often. But I see Rob frequently and Crosby a lot.
Cool.
But we're still friends. We wrote the second book because so much happened to Crosby after 1988 that it was worth another book.
He became a daddy, in a surrogate sort of a way. Everybody was shocked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a motorcycle accident that almost killed him. He was in the Northridge quake destroyed his house and everything in it.
Aye.
Talk about 9 lives.
Wow. Well, you have had quite a wonderful life, and hopefully with many more years to come. Carl Gottlieb, it's been joyful and delightful talking to you. Last question for you. Have you ever faced writer's block? And if you did, what did you do?
I know when I'm facing writer's block because I practice avoidance. I will do the dishes 5 times. I'll drive long distances on stupid errands. I'll sleep too late. But eventually, the writing process involves making concentric circles around the typewriter and the keyboard, the screen, until there's no place else left to go, and then you have to sit and write your way through it. So you do. You just keep writing, whether it's laundry lists or emails or some of my most prolific writing on the web has been while avoiding work or the appearance that
Well, this is the best interview that I've ever done so far on the Dave's Gone By Facebook radio program of the stream. We've been talking with Carl Gottlieb. It just remains for me to say thank you so much, and to say keep living and keep writing, and shalom to you.
Shalom to you.
Rabbi Sol Solomon there with the screenwriter Carl Gottlieb. Get his books about Jaws, and hope you have enjoyed listening to his interview with the great and the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon. I'm also kind of Jewish. My name is Dave Lefkowitz, and we do Dave's Gone By every Saturday here from 9 until noon, or thereabouts, Mountain Time. I want to thank so many people for writing in and for tuning in, among them Ralph and Bert and Janine, who says, "Hi, Dave and wife." Well, wife was here about an hour or so ago. If you missed that, don't forget that you can tune in to our archives at davesgoneby.com and listen to every show, just about, that we've ever done, going all the way back to October of 2002. They're all there for free as downloads or MP3s, or you can stream them right on your computer. And of course, over the last few months, now that we've been doing this Facebook and video stuff, we have the video archives as well as the audio. The audio has a higher sound quality, but the video's got video, so that's totally up to you. Anyway, they're all there in the archive section of davesgoneby.com. That's also the place that you can find out more about the show, see some photos of the broadcast and of me, as if you need to look at more of me after 3.5 hours. But anyway, it's great to have so many people in the Daverhood, and welcome to Teresa, and welcome to Robert, and all the folks who've been commenting and tuning in over the past couple of hours. And we have so much more to do on this 665th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream. We've got StoryTime coming up. We've got a brand new story for you. And, it coincides, aren't we lucky, with Potato Day that is happening next week in Greeley, Colorado. So you're not going to miss, and you're certainly not going to want to miss Vegetable Friends there. That's coming up very shortly on Dave's Gone By. We've also got our Saturday Segue of songs in the news. I'm going to do a short piece on Dave's Big Dictionary, because my wife did that thing earlier in the broadcast where she opened up the dictionary to a random page, plunked her finger down randomly, and came up with the word evident. Whew. Not sure I have anything much to say about it, but I'll try. So that is all coming. But before we get to that, let's get cultural. I know we were talking about the theater before, but we can also be a little bit literary on Dave's Gone By, and every week we try to do a limerick, a short poem. So we elevate, as it were, the tone of this broadcast just for a moment or two, and we do a poem. And the cool thing is these are Colorado limericks of the damned. So we take a particular place, town, city in Colorado, and I read a short limerick poem about it. And today, this is a big one, today's limerick is going to be about Boulder. Boulder, it is at the base of the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It's about 25 minutes northwest of Denver, with about 100,000 people in it. So it's a pretty big place. If you ever listen to E-Town on the radio, that emanates out of Boulder. They've got the Pearl Street Mall. It's been voted among the 10 happiest cities, 10 brainiest cities, and best cities for the next decade. They've got CU Boulder, one of our rivals, which has 30,000 undergraduates, 7,000 grads, and 10,000 staff and faculty. And by the way, this made me very, very happy indeed, that if you want to kill prairie dogs in Boulder, Colorado, you actually need a special permit. And they're pretty protected over there, little marmots and prairie dogs, and that makes old Dave very happy indeed. People born in Boulder, you can't get more different than this. Kristen Davis, that beautiful woman from Sex and the City, and Jello Biafra, that beautiful man from the Dead Kennedys. Yes, both of them, Boulderites. And so, let us have a Boulder, Colorado limerick of the damned.
You're the poetry man.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme, And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain, Colorado, 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 Colorado,
Actually, it's not. You don't even have to pull the kids from the room for this one. It's tasteless, but it isn't actually filthy. So here is our Colorado limerick of the damned for the town of Boulder, Colorado. Ahem. A very stern father from Boulder was teaching his daughter and told her, "If you pick your nose, I'll cut off your toes and sever your arm at the shoulder." Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is our Colorado limerick of the damned, certainly worth waiting for, as they are every week here in the Daverhood. It's Saturday, September 1st, 2018, here in Greeley, Colorado. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. We do this program every Saturday, and as I mentioned, we've got a Segue coming up. We have our, let's get to our story, because as I mentioned early in the show, next Saturday we won't be here because it will be Potato Day in Greeley, Colorado, down in Centennial Village. Get a free baked you-know-what. Also, there's blacksmithing, there's quilting. Oh, quilting. There's a book sale, there's Mexican dancers. It's just, it's a hell of a time, ladies and gentlemen, dedicated to the beautiful and magnificent potato. Well, I've told the potato story before on the show of how I started to collect and get these potatoes. Of when I had a hernia, my wife and her mom just got me one as a gag, and then we decided to get one or two more, and then one or two more, and then 30 more and 50 more. But anywho, so these guys were part of a production thing 20-something years ago now. There were other vegetables involved too. And the idea was they would be used as impeti, to get kids to eat their vegetables. So it was an educational thing. There's this is a potato. This is how this grows. This is how this tastes like. And you can use it. And then there'd be moi mushroom and Billy broccoli and Cody cauliflower and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, when I try and buy these things now on eBay, half the time I can't afford them because nobody wants to sell just one of them. They come still occasionally as a set. I'm not paying $50 for a bunch of goddamn vegetables, but for potato, I'm almost tempted. Anywho, so part of all that was also telling the story of these vegetables and making kids want to eat them and calling them the vegetable friends. Well, who knew? There's merch. There's other merchandise that goes along with this, like a cool carrying bag and lunchbox stuff and stickers. Well, among the merch from Toy Box Creations is this book, Vegetable Friends. And so, won't you join me today as we do Vegetable Friends on StoryTime?
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would. You gotta give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
Yes, indeed. I will tell you the story of Vegetable Friends, which was written... Oh, and by the way, just so you know, so nobody takes it from me, because I've been keeping it in my office, this book belongs to me. There you go. And if you see, here is the backside of potato. In fact, if I show them together, you can almost not tell the difference. There is helping push the rake that is creating more veggies. What is all this writing here? No part of this publication may be reproduced whole or in part or being used by, well, I'm probably breaking some law here, but I don't care. Text copyright 1996 by Tony Lawler and Bruce Kosiemba. Tony Lawler, oh, my wife just tuned in just in time for Vegetable Friends Storytime. Oh boy. Character concept by Jim Olson, and Vegetable Friends is a registered trademark of Toy Box Creations, printed in Hong Kong, because these guys were made in China by, little kids with missing fingers making 12 cents an hour. And Joyce says she loves this book. I love you too, Joyce. Almost as much as I love Spud's Potato! Look, behold, this is the first thing that you see when you open the book. Oh my goodness, there he is, Spuds Potato on his mound. I hope that potato's not poop. Look at that, there's all his relatives there. And here he is, he's by his little farmhouse, and he's carrying a bucket of his brethren. Hi! We'll actually have him speaking here, if I can do this. Hi! I am a potato. Sorry, I am a potato. My friends call me Spud. I started out like most plants as a tender little bud. Oh, isn't that sweet? He started out, see, as a little tuberific bud. Let's see if there's more about Spud's Potato in this book. Oh. Okay, this is kind of horrifying. Because he's there, obviously at the funeral of one of his relatives, and for some reason he's also standing on purple pea. But what is Potato saying? Let me see if I can read it from the TV screen here. When the farmer plants potatoes, he never uses seeds. Just pieces of potatoes are all the farmer needs. So you see, you need to break some potatoes. I know. My wife is screaming, no! Just how sad and horrible this is. But you see, you take an old dead potato and you cut it into bits and it makes dozens and hundreds more potatoes. And look at this. Look, oh my gosh. That's sort of, it's horrible acne that's appearing on the bottom of this plant and possible tumors. No, they're not tumors, they're tubers. And Potato is saying, he takes the little pieces and plants them down below. And from these little pieces, potatoes start to grow. Yay! Yeah, and here they do. Look, here's a growing potato. Ooh, I'm growing. Yeah, baby. There he is. Isn't this the most fabulous book ever? I mean, who needs Dostoevsky when you have Vegetable Friends by Bruce Lawler and Tony Kosiemba? And here comes the farmer. And, wow, he's just that typical classic pedophilic farmer right there. I get this on the screen. Then, later on, the farmer digs them from the ground. Oh, we dig you too, Mr. Farmer, because he knows that he will find potatoes big and round. Yeah! Yes, indeed. Those perfectly beautiful potatoes that, that even might someday, if you're lucky and you work really hard, you might grow into the Grand Knish, who will be making a special appearance at Potato Day this coming Saturday. Yay! So, and here he is. Oh, look, it's sort of like the end scene of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here's Potato going on the back of a van here with his brother. And it's sort of a cattle car heading off to parts unknown. Let me see this. He drives us to your market, where everyone will buy. We all love his potatoes, and here's the reason why. And he's heading off to the city on a hill over there. Could be Jerusalem, land of milk and potatoes. Oh. And it's 1996. So, of course, they want to be politically correct. They want to include everyone, because it is a book essentially for school children. So notice, notice all the little children of all races, creeds, and colors and hairstyles munching on various kinds of potatoes, really sick, while Potato is giving a thumbs up about this. So they're eating, all his family. There's mashed, 2 people eating mashed, or one might be au gratin, kind of hard to tell. You got the black kid eating French fries, and the white kid with his entire arm up to the shoulder in a bag of potato chips. That's devotion to a food. You hash us and you mash us, or you put us in a stew. You can boil, bake, and even make chips and French fries too. No wonder they're standing in their own pee. They're all terrified. Potato's afraid of like a grater coming at him. All right, well, it doesn't get greater than this, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, look at this. This is kind of like a potato muscle magazine. This will make you happy, hon. This is beautiful. Potatoes are important food that everyone should eat. Potatoes make you healthy, and potatoes are a treat. Ooh, but look at it. Look at it. It's like, Sugar Ray Leonard muscles here on this guy. And then, he's got the Mike Tyson bites taken out of him, and still he's standing on some sort of maroon pea. But anyway, yes, potatoes are an important food that everyone should eat. He is one of our vegetable friends. They have a couple more in here. We'll do one more this week, and then we'll save one for the... My wife just posted a bunch of imagery, including of potatoes, smiling poop, and then angry emoji faces for, I guess, the being eaten part. So there's really mixed messages from this book. Look what they do to corn. Here is corny on the cob. And I know this program is corny, but here we're being quite specific about it. Corny on the cob. He's sitting there on all his brothers, and they've got little hands that are reaching out. Doesn't it look sort of like the Sneetches from Dr. Seuss? Anywho, here he is with something right out of Andrew Wyeth. You can't really tell Christina's World from this particular picture here. Ha! I have to come up with a new voice, don't I? Ah, my name is Corny. I'm Corny on the cob. I want to tell you about me. This will be a fun job. Yeah! Ding, 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 ding. I have sex with my brother. Okay, here we go. I don't know where that came from. Okay. I know. You know how when you lose a tooth and you're excited about it when you're a kid, and you hold it up to a mom and it's like, oh yeah, put it on the pillow for the fairy. Look what happened to Corin here. This is really horrifying. Corin pulled off a piece of himself, unless he took a shit and that's what came out. See these little yellow things? They look like little beads, and they really are the corn you eat, and are also little seeds. Not the great scansion there in terms of poetry, but oh look, he's holding up his little nugget of corn there. He's still got the gray hair, and and he's sitting on blood. I'm not sure why. At least when Potato was standing, it was on maroon pea, but he's already doing some pink blood there. More about Corny, the corn on the cob. Now, if we take the little seeds and plant them in a row, then water and wait a little while, the seeds will start to grow. And see, look what's happening there. Oh, they're turning into little palm trees of corn. And oh my, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk already. Here he is, pointing at the giant stalk o' corn. The seeds grow into little plants. The plants grow way up high. On the plants grow ears of corn. An ear of corn am I. Yeah, kind of running out of inspiration already in this book, aren't we? But it's a pretty cute picture, and Corny is such a fine host here. And now we've got our diverse gang of children. My wife writes, this book is very problematic. Look what's going on here. It's like a slaughterhouse. You got this girl eating cornflakes, right, and smiling. You've got Corny in the middle of them. And then there's this just child who is like massacring an ear of corn, and a pig, I don't know if you can see the pig there, just chowing down on cobs. From ears of corn come many things, like cornflakes and William Faulkner novels. And good for you. I know this might surprise you. Farm animals love corn too. There's the piggy eating the corn. And there's also an animal eating corn next to the kid. Anyway, one more page of this? Yes. Here we go. Oh, and this is even more hard. This is like when they send the Jews to the ovens in Auschwitz, right? Now Popcorn here is actually promoting putting corn in incredibly high intense heat situations and turning him into popcorn. Look at that. Now popcorn is a different corn. The seeds pop big and white, and mixed with salt and butter, it is every kid's delight. He's just thrilled. He's like, you're going to pull these things off of me, and you're going to heat them intensely, and then some human is going to eat them up, and that's a good thing. Very, very problematic book here. And then, of course, we have Corn, who's gained weight since this last thing here. Look how small he is here, especially over here. This is after he was on a Weight Watchers program for a while. He went off Weight Watchers, started eating a lot of butter and salt. And look at him now. He's obese. His body corn index has grown by 30%. Corn is one of the neatest foods. to find upon your plate. And most kids like to eat us because we taste so great. Yes, indeed. And he's still in a pool of his own blood. Vegetable Friends, ladies and gentlemen, from Bruce Lawler and Tony Kosiemba, Toy Box Creations books from 1996. Oh, there's more. As you can see, we've done potato, and we've done corn over there. So we still have Moy Mushroom, and we've got a tomato to talk about, and whatever the hell that green thing is. So please join us on the next episode of Dave's Gone By 2 weeks from now for more of Vegetable Friends. Yeah. Okay, it's 12:02 Mountain Time here in the Daverhood on the Dave's Gone By Facebook program of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, and it's our 665th episode of the program. We've been calling it Mein Gott for our guest in the Daverhood, screenwriter Carl Gottlieb. So great to hear his stories about working on Jaws and The Jerk and with Richard Pryor and on TV and so much of the cool stuff that he's written. So, what else do we have to do on the program? Because I know it's noon. We should be leaving. We're not leaving. Got more to do. We have a Saturday segue of songs in the news, and I'm going to talk very briefly about the word evident. Still blank. Still nothing. So I'll kill some more time by saying hi to the friends of the Daverhood. Now, friends of the Daverhood are folks who have been on this Facebook program of the stream, or maybe they were on the radio show, whether back in Long Island when we were on terrestrial radio, or here at UNC when we were doing the actual student radio station that's on hiatus now, or now on Facebook and podcast, where you can hear Dave's Gone By. These are folks who have taken the time out of their busy and creative lives to be guests on the show. And so we honor them. We say, hey, what are they up to now? They were doing this when they were on the program 5 years ago. What exciting things are happening in their lives as we speak? So, Carl Gottlieb, of course, he wrote that new screenplay. So we wish him well on that. He was on today's show. But on previous shows, well, first of all, some, want to wish best wishes with some bad news to a personal friend of mine and a colleague of mine, Alan Scherstuhl. He's a very, very fine writer and film critic, and for the past couple of years, he's been the film writer and film section editor of a little newspaper in New York called The Village Voice. More on that anon, but I certainly wish Alan Scherstuhl all the best in his upcoming endeavors. So, let's form a newspaper together, and then both go bankrupt together. Whatever. Anyway, also, hey, shout out to writer Mike Ball. He's a humorous writer, writes essays in the Irma Bombeck sort of style, and he was doing that for a couple of years, and then he stopped doing it. He needed a break. He wrote a book or two, and then he's bringing back his formerly syndicated recurring column, What I've Learned So Far. So if you go to MikeBallOnline.com, Mike, B-A-L-L, online.com, you can sign up or just go read them there. His recurring column, he's bringing it back this month, What I've Learned So Far. So yay. Let's see, wanted to let you know that now through, actually today is the last chance to catch Grumpy Old Men, the musical at Maine's Ogunquit Playhouse. And actually you can't catch it because it's sold out, because so many people wanted to see it, and it's got some really good reviews. So congratulations there to our musical friend, Neil Berg, and also to cast member Hal Linden. You, of course, remember him from Barney Miller. They're both friends of the Daverhood. Also letting you know that on Monday at Red Rocks right here in Colorado, Amy Mann, our friend of the Daverhood, will be doing a concert. And then this Friday, Rita Rudner, the comedian, she has a new comedy special, A Tale of Two Dresses. It just occurred to me, I just realized that I interviewed Rita Rudner for a Long Island Woman newspaper, and she hasn't actually been a friend of the Daverhood. So I kind of made an oops there. But if you're into Rita Rudner, go see her. Let's see, Rebecca Luker is playing this coming week, well, next Friday into Saturday, September 7th through the 8th. She and Sally Wilford will be at Feinstein's 54 Below. And, the dog outside. Let's see if we want to bring the dog in. I don't normally hear woofing outside. Outside in my college days, I might have. But anywho, where am I at here? Chuck Muckle, the greatest name in the history of the world, director and actor Chuck Muckle, is directing an excerpt of a gay drama called Flowers of Idaho as part of the New York New Works Theater Festival at the Acorn Theater on Theater Row. And that is happening on September 7th, which is the Friday, and then also again on September 15th. Playing now, through the first week of October, Tevye Served Raw, featuring our friend Alan Lewis Rickman, telling stories about Sholem Aleichem's Tevye that weren't in Fiddler on the Roof. You can go catch that through early October at the Playroom on West 46th Street. And speaking of Fiddler on the Roof, everybody loves National Yiddish Theater's Yiddish version of Fiddler on the Roof, directed by Joel Gray. We'd love to get him as a friend of the Daverhood. But no, the musical director, Zalman Mlatek, he is a friend, as is the guy who co-wrote Fiddler on the Roof, Sheldon Harnick. He was on the program. So go see that. That's playing through October 25th off-Broadway. And then through the end of October, also off-Broadway at the York Theater Company, which I mentioned before. David Friedman wrote the music for the hit off-Broadway musical Desperate Measures. It even won the 2018 Drama Desk Award for musical Desperate Measures at the York Theater. On Broadway, you have till mid-January to catch School of Rock, featuring lyrics by our friend Glenn Slater. You've got The Band's Visit on Broadway with music by David Yazbek. That's at the Barrymore Theater. Come From Away, wonderful musical by Irene Sankoff and David Hein at the Schoenfeld Theater. LaChanze is playing one of the Donna Summers in Summer, the Donna Summer musical, on Broadway. Daniel Breaker plays Aaron Burr in Hamilton over at the Richard Rogers Theater. And then moving away from Broadway, don't forget that every Monday night, it's Jim Caruso's Cast Party at Birdland in Manhattan. If you want to find out about New York nightlife, remember that Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of the terrific website StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento still doing new Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Eva Heinemann is the host and founder of High Drama, a theater review TV program on Manhattan Cable, while Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake, they co-host Two on the Aisle, another theater review show also on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We want to remind you that Bob Cudmore does podcasts about upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com. Phil Mushnick is still writing about sports in terms of how sports has gotten so terrible in a lot of ways, and especially media coverage of sports. You can read him at the New York Post, and you might want to check out theaterscene.com, which is published by our friend Jeannie Lieberman. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. La 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 la. Anywho, yes, it is just about 10 after 12 Mountain Time here in the Daverhood with Dave's Gone By. Thank you so much, all the people who've been tuning in. Brian from the Greeley Tribune, aforementioned, and Eileen, and of course Joyce. Joyce is saying Ziggy is awesome. I've already forgotten what I was trying to... Who is Ziggy? Ziggy from the comics? Now I'm... it's like 2 minutes after and I've already forgotten who... what that would have been in reference to. But yay, Ziggy! And yay to all the folks who tune in so far for most of Dave's Gone By, but we still, as promised, have more to do. For example, as I said, Joyce pushed her finger into the Webster's Dictionary, or the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, this little pocket one, which manages to squeeze in 75,000 words and definitions into it, and her finger found evident this morning, completely at random. So the goal of Dave's Big Dictionary is to pick a word at random, and then I gotta find something to talk about. Uh-oh. Extra, tell all about it. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. So yeah, I'm usually not this stumped, because I can talk, oh, Ziggy is the dog that was outside the door there. I don't remember the names of my students. I don't remember the names of animals that are wandering around. Sometimes I have to look at my own driver's license to remember that I'm Dave from Dave's Gone By. So anyway, but the word that I do remember here is evident. I'll read the actual definition here from Webster's. It's clear to the vision and understanding. Synonyms include manifest, distinct, obvious, apparent, and plain. Well, I'm not a parent. I don't have any kids. We just have an old dog. But, evident. Was trying to think of where I could go with that word. And I just started thinking a little bit about myself, because what else do I do, right? And thinking that I'm that kind of person where I like things that are plain and clear. And maybe I didn't when I was a little sprout and a spruglet in my preteens and teens, and I liked avant-garde, funny, zany things and chaos. And the older I get, the more as I turn into a man in my 50s, I like things to be clear and plain and evident. I don't necessarily want to have to start digging through things. And I feel now for my students, especially in my research paper class, because I've got to go to them and I've got to say, okay, you think you believe something about some issue in the news, some current event, something academic or literary. And now you're going to be forced to defend your position. You're going to have to start reading all these things about it from journal articles and books and newspapers. And you're going to have to see opposing point of views. And you have to see the shades of gray in things. And that what you believe is 100% true, maybe you'll believe it's only 93% true. And you have to pay attention to that 7%. And I have to teach this. And I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to see all sides of things, and I don't want to see a kaleidoscopic view of humanity and the world. I just want things to be clear and evident. This is potato. It is very cute. It was made in China. It makes me happy to look at it and to share him with you. Evident. I don't want to start thinking, well, yeah, I was probably making a Chinese sweatshop with underage labor. And if this were really popular, like Barbie dolls and stuff, I wouldn't have as many of them, but people would have them all over and love them just as I do. And go away. Go away with that. And, of course, your brain explodes in this world with politics, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to our Saturday segue. But, there's something to be said for things that are as plain as the rather tilted nose on my face, right? It's just clear. It's evident that this is true, right? And then, of course, I am teaching these kids the whole point of research papers, and even in the early class, college composition, it's essays. It's like, what's your evidence? Okay, yeah, I can't use this phrase in the classroom. I actually, speaking of noses, the phrase that I love is opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, so what? I revised that to opinions are like noses. It doesn't have the same effect, but I also don't get fired. So opinions are like noses. Everybody has one. So what? Your opinion counts only not because you're you, and not even because you're clever, but because, you've researched it. You backed it up. This author said this. This researcher said that. That chart, that graph, that study proved that. And then you can say with conviction, aha, okay. The evidence shows, and it's evident because. So, evidence, actually, the word evidence is going to be with me all too much over the next 14 weeks, here as I'm teaching English. But at the same time, I do sort of wish so many things were more clear and easy and evident. I wish I could support the president wholeheartedly and not hate half the things he does and like half the other things that he does. Why can't it just be clear, clean, delineated, easy to decide? I wish I could look in my pantry and see my Arizona iced tea or the raspberry and not stand there for like half a minute and go, do I want the raspberry because it's nice and sweet and I really prefer the flavor a little bit? Or, well, yeah, but it's got a few extra calories in it and I kind of like, the plain tea also, I can stuff some mint in it. Oh, decisions. What what terrible lives us hegemonic white males lead. But anywho, that's all. That is all I have to say. Evidently, about the word evident. Sorry, this was kind of a bummer of a Dave's Big Dick scenario. But hopefully next time I will do better for you, or I'll do better in our next segment, which is our Saturday segue of songs in the news. This is where I play a piece of music, and you have to figure out, hey, why is Dave playing that? What does it have to do with what's going on in current events in the world at large? Let us begin with some Skiffle.
Lost song standing by the railroad track, waiting for the freight train to come back. Freight train come back and never made no stop. Lost song thought it'd have to ride on top of this long gone.
And unfortunately, that's about all I can play. It's already 30 seconds into that. That is, of course, a live recording. The voice you heard was the Skiffle master, the late Lonnie Donegan, in an album that he did with Chris Barber and Van Morrison called The Skiffle Sessions. It was basically Van Morrison saying, God, let's honor these guys while we still got them, and play this wonderful music that he grew up with, the skiffle, the washboard, that kind of thing, Does Your Chewing Gum. I don't think that song is on there, but most people tend to know Lonnie Donegan from that or Rock Island Line. But that song was called Lost John. Lost John. And, of course, we are saying goodbye endlessly to the late and often great John McCain. So John Sidney McCain III, born August 29th, 1936. So literally his birthday would have been a couple of days ago. He died, of course, on Saturday last week of brain cancer. So it's been a week. It has felt like 5 years since they've been able to put this man in the ground. Because for all the documentaries about him, all the stories about him, he's being wheeled all over the place. He's in state in the Senate. He's there. He's a hero. There is no friggin' question in my mind that this is an honorable, respectable man, even if I disagree with him politically a lot of the time. But there's something to be said for the Jewish thing of somebody dies, you get a pine box together, you tell the family, you tell the friends, you get them in a chapel within 24 hours, and you just, you put the bones, you put the skin, you get it underground. I never went to a wake until I started dating and then marrying my wife Joyce. And then suddenly it's like you come and there's the person in a box and you physically see them. And then you come a day later and they're still in the box and you see them and you wave goodbye. It's just like, we know they're dead. I will trust the coroner and the rabbi or the priest to say, dead, sorry, boom. Down they go. You can still grieve. You can still feel sadness. But it's become, presidents have not gotten this level of coverage when they have passed away that John McCain has gotten on TV over the past week. And it's not that he doesn't deserve it. It's not that, oh, well, you're complaining of watching a week of John McCain on television? He spent 5.5 years in a prison camp. You don't hear him complain. I know. But, geez, man, it's enough already. I'm sorry. It's just enough. Anyway, John McCain, conservative Republican, who was also a maverick, not afraid to reach across the aisle, which he did. In 2000, he lost the primary to George W. Bush. Oh, how sorry we are that happened. And in 2008, he, again, one of the big mistakes of his career, because he wasn't, here was a guy, his own man, brave. They offered to get him out of North Vietnam, and he said, no, not unless my buddies come with me. So they made him stay another couple more years to be tortured there. So that's an incredible amount of fortitude and bravery and honor and glory for this man. And yet, how the hell, in 2008, does he sort of let himself be pushed into this political marriage with Sarah Palin? Right? I mean, he could have, if that's what made me worry about him as a president, if the party could have foisted upon him someone that he knew was an idiot, someone that he knew was good-looking and very telegenic and photogenic, but had, a brain, with all due respect, sorry, Potato, that's smaller than this little papito here. He could have said no. He could have said, no, give me someone else. He could have said, I have someone in mind for my vice presidential running mate, who is also telegenic, and who would appeal to a section of the country that I might not. Okay, fine. But instead, he let himself get railroaded by the bells and whistles. He knew the party would be behind him, and to be fair, again, it was 2008, and so nobody was going to vote for a Republican after what George W. Bush did to the country. I mean, they could have brought Lincoln back, and then people would say, no Republicans after this last guy. So I feel bad for McCain on that level. On a bombing mission in Hanoi, he was shot down, captured, and tortured by North Vietnam, and he suffered lifelong physical disabilities from it. And even so, served 2 terms as Arizona congressman, and then became a senator in 1987, and he stayed a senator from that. It's almost more of a torture being a senator for 30 years in this political climate than it was to be beaten and psychologically tortured in North Vietnam. I don't know. Anyway, this is actually the most important thing that people, they don't want to talk about. They don't want to say much until he's in the ground. But Democrats are mainly worried of oh, great, they get to appoint another Republican for his seat rather than a runoff. And they've got a Republican governor named Doug Ducey who's going to name McCain's replacement for the Senate seat. Now, Donald Trump did tweet eventually something gracious on John McCain's death. Fine, thank you. And then they had the insanity with the American flag of let's have the flag up and then down. He said, well, it stays up until he's in the ground, but that's for presidents. And just the stupidity, relentlessly, of the administration in dealing with so many things, including the unforgivable tweet. The reason Meghan McCain and his wife were looking daggers even at Mike Pence, because he was a representative coming to the funeral and coming to all the orations and things for John McCain, because they don't want Trump there. Trump, who famously, most notoriously said about John McCain, not, I disagree with him, not, he really betrayed the party by thumbing down on health care, not stuff like that, which is politics, and you can stay. But he said, everybody's calling John McCain a hero, but my heroes don't get captured. Look it up. He said that. It's just, And the amazing part, when you talk about the official White House TV station, which is Fox News, and places like, the New York Post is now more iffy on Trump himself, but they're a conservative Republican, and other places. So for the past 2 weeks, they've just been inundated with this bad news about Manafort and Trump's lawyer Cohen, and taking plea deals and pleading guilty, and maybe throwing Trump under the bus and saying unindicted co-conspirator and all. Just page after page of this that even the right-wing conservative media can't ignore. They can piss on it, but they can't ignore it. And it's just day after day when the media obviously wants to be trumpeting the economy and the record numbers of Wall Street, and they can't. So finally, a Republican did them a solid. John McCain dropped dead. And that meant that all the papers, they could push aside the legal troubles and the Mueller probe and the so-called Russian collusion and everything else, and that didn't have to be on the papers anymore. And they could bring up John McCain, Republican senator, American hero. And even then, because Donald Trump has the mouth that he does, and the absolute lack of self-control that goes far beyond mine, even then, they had a quandary on their hands because John McCain obviously did not like Donald Trump as a politician or a person. And, of course, the feeling was mutual. So with Trump saying those terrible, insulting, stupid things about... Here was a chance for all the conservative Republican GOP-leaning newspapers to have an article that was about a Republican hero, right, and a senator, and get all that shit about Trump's legal issues off the papers. And what can you do? You got McCain, the one Republican who drops dead. See, if McConnell died, or who's the previous, Boehner died, or Paul Ryan died, I mean, no problem. Oh, poor guys, they're dead. And Donald Trump said something really touching and personal and gave a speech, but they couldn't do it with McCain. It's just hilarious. Anyway, let's hear something noisy, or I should say, Illinoisy.
I don't care what the captain said. I fold it right at the top of my head. I lost my sight and the state backs in. I follow my heart and it leads me right to Jackson.
A little bit of Sufjan Stevens there from his album Come On, Feel the Illinois. Not sure when that goes back to. Let me see. From 2005, Sufjan Stevens, a song called Jacksonville. Jacksonville. Why would I be playing a song called Jacksonville as part of our Saturday Segue? I bet you've almost forgotten it, but it was only a few days ago, last Sunday, at a gaming competition in Jacksonville, Florida. 3 killed, including the gunman, 11 wounded in, well, they're calling it a mass shooting. I guess a lot of people were hit on Sunday. A guy named David Katz, age 24, was brought a handgun in. I think he was upset by losing whatever game he was playing, and he came back and took it out on everybody else who was playing the games. And you know, it's kind of neat in this case that suddenly the GOP couldn't run and say, oh, another illegal alien, another murderer, like they killed that girl last week. No, they couldn't do that. Wasn't a Muslim terrorist, right? Wasn't some foreigner. Wasn't some person here on a visa. Guy named David Katz. I hope I know the name Katz. Please, God, let him not be Jewish. But 24-year-old with a handgun. And what I also love is that it happened in Florida. Not that I love that people died and got shot, but that this didn't happen in Chicago. Because if it did, the Republicans would be all over it. No, it's another Chicago shooting of so many. And what is Mayor Rahm Emanuel doing? And Democratic policies are just destroying that state and the cities there, and etc. But no, it happened in Florida. It happened in a place where the mayor is the head of the Republican Party. And the governor, who's running again, Rick Scott, is a billionaire Republican businessman. So, that you don't hear a lot about that gaming thing on Fox News because they got no angle on it. They can't blame a brown person. They can't blame a person who came here over the wall or through a pipeline or in some ship or some raft. And they can't blame Democratic policies for letting crazy people run wild. No, it's a crazy person with a gun in Republican Florida, and 3 people died. So there. Now, speaking of a lawless, occasionally kind of place, let's go south of the border, shall we? We shall.
Come with me to Mexico. We can laugh about the love we used to know.
Just able to get that word in there before I had to pot it down. Come with me to Mexico. Nice little song there from Leona Neas. Not even sure what happened to her, Leona Neas, but she has some good music there a decade or so back. This was from her album, I Tried to Rock You, But You Only Roll. Kind of obvious to see why that album didn't fly off the shelves, but cool song there called Mexico. On Monday, see, this is another thing he could have trumpeted. If there wasn't all this other crap going on that made Trump look like an idiot, he could have said, hey, and other news outlets, including left-wing ones, would have said, look at this. On Monday, Donald Trump announced the scrapping of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, in favor of a new U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Yay! Yeah, maybe it'll lower our trade deficit. Maybe it'll deal with our intellectual property issues. It's supposed to. Now, we're waiting to see if Canada will join in. They're kind of on a deadline here, and they're thinking about it very strongly. So this is the kind of thing that people who weren't just voting to be racist or voting because they hated Hillary, but people who really believed in Donald Trump as a businessman and not a con man, this is what they were waiting for. This kind of thing, we're going to make a better deal. We'll hurt a little bit because we'll have these trade wars, but eventually we're still the United States, and the other countries will come to heel and make better deals that will be okay for them and better for us. So if Canada joins in on this, chalk it up perhaps as a win for the guy in charge, courtesy of Mexico. And again, it's amazing. Wasn't it only a year and a half ago when our relationship with Mexico was the previous president, Vicente Fox, saying, doing all these videos and saying, we are not paying for your fucking wall. Literally. I mean, I'm quoting him there. And just calling Trump an idiot and no love lost between them, and Trump's words about Mexico and Mexicans coming over the border. Kind of cool that when you push all that aside, perhaps a deal can be done. So some potentially really good news for the week here. Not such great news. Here's the Duke of Iron.
Of all the vulgar songs that I heard in history, none beat back the monkey.
Don't get to hear much Duke of Iron, unfortunately, but he was pretty great. One of the Calypso masters, the Duke of Iron there, title track of an album called Monkey Calypso. Going back, a good 50, maybe 60 years there for him. So why would I play Monkey Calypso? This is a little bit more obscure, but it just, my jaw dropped when I heard this piece of news this week. There were primaries on Tuesday in America, in a couple of different places. There's Georgia, Maryland, and Florida. And it was quite an extraordinary day because 3 African-American Democratic candidates were chosen to run for governor. So and it could become important because these were not always party-philic people. I mean, there were more Bernie Sanders people than Pelosi Hillary people. So it's going to be a real interesting midterm election, not to mention 2020. But okay, so these 3 people win, and in Florida, it was a real surprise. You had this guy named Andrew Gillum, a handsome, young, black guy, won a surprise upset over more centrist Democrats. Fine. Okay. Great. Congratulations. Let's hope he can prevail over Republicans. That's the whole point, really. Now, his Republican adversary, Ron DeSantis, who also won that day, and he is one of Trump's, E.T. appointee kind of thing. Trump points the finger like, he's the guy, vote for him. And so Trump had to be happy this guy won. He won the primary, so he's going to be the Republican challenger against this Andrew Gillum. What did Ron DeSantis say to his fellow Floridians who will be voting in November for the midterm elections? And say, vote for me, as opposed to the Democratic candidate, this leftist, socialist-leaning Bernie Sanders kind of guy. Could have said all of that sort of thing. Could have said, and is trying to say to his Republicans, we've got a good thing here in Florida, supposedly, despite the mass shooting. Don't screw it up. Don't mess it up. Don't fuck it up. Don't muck it up. But somewhere between the brain and the tongue on this Republican guy, this Ron DeSantis, some brain fart happened. And that's not how he put it. He didn't say, don't make the mistake, don't tear this up. He could come up with something else, but maybe he just got torn between muck and fuck and don't mess it up. The word that came out of his mouth, the phrase that came out of this fellow's head was, don't monkey this up by choosing the Democrat Gillum. Don't monkey this up. Gillum, I remind you again, is a young black man. And of course, immediately the left wing sees this as a wolf whistle. This is beyond the hearing, supposedly, of Democrats, to go right to white Republicans, these old white men in their Jeeps and with their Confederate flags, and go, wolf whistle, don't let the black guy get into office. Because, don't let the jungle person turn Florida into chaos. This is what he said. And of course, DeSantis had to backtrack and say, no, what he meant was socialist, high-spending, left-wing policies will drag down Florida. But, incroyable. Don't monkey this up. But I would even understand it if that was a phrase. Like if monkeying something up was a common-ish phrase, and it came out of his mouth, and it just so happened, oh crap, the guy's black, I shouldn't have said. No, nobody ever said, don't monkey this up. It's never been said as far as I know. Nobody went into Webster's dictionary and looked up the word up and monkey and don't, and threw them together just like that to say don't screw it up. He did. That can only work well, hopefully, for the Democrats in November. Okay, we got one more song for our Saturday segue here. One more tune to play for you, and I apologize in advance. You're going to hear children singing. Ugh.
Just one voice singing in the darkness. All it takes is one voice singing so they hear what's on your mind, and when you look around you'll find there's one.
Okay, I know. I'm not going to, even John McCain couldn't listen to that for more than a minute or two, but being a little mean there, because that is actually from an album, a live concert benefit album that happened after the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. They got a bunch of Broadway people to do a From Broadway with Love benefit for Sandy Hook. And so they got this choir to do this catchy song called One Voice. One Voice is the name of that song. Why am I playing One Voice on this episode of Dave's Gone By in our Saturday segue? Well, for 70, well, no, not really 70 years, for about 63 years, we've had one voice. Now we have none. The Village Voice, as I intimated before but didn't quite give away, the Village freaking Voice is dead. This newspaper that was co-founded by Norman Mailer, for crying out loud, back in the 50s, to do New York politics, to also investigate New York culture, to have a certain feeling of Greenwich Village and the metropolitan area of New York that wasn't being covered by the New York Times and the Stead, Herald Tribune and the Daily News and stuff. This was going to be not an underground paper, but a paper that had some of that feeling of what's really going on in local politics. Let's dig where the big boys are afraid to. Let's talk about what's really going on in New York and, by extension, in America. Well, like all newspapers, The Voice has been suffering terribly in terms of circulation and budget and economics and numbers. So it was bought 3 years ago by a billionaire, this guy named Peter Barbie. Peter Barbie, he does textiles and stuff. The North Face, he owns that or is involved with that. So he bought the Village Voice, I guess, as kind of a hobby to turn it around and make it go in the black and save it and revive it. Yeah, because it would have died anyway. So he buys it. And he's got billions of dollars, right? So he keeps the thing going. And then after 2 years, he realizes that doing it still in print, hard copy, not working. Can't make the numbers jibe. So, and of course I've been getting rid of people over the years and taking full-timers or part-timers and just making them adjuncts to the paper. And then he went online only. So that enjoyment of going to those little box kiosks, not those Uratoire urinals, by the way, but opening one of these boxes and pulling out a Village Voice newspaper, whether you agree with them politically or not. You know, I won't read most of the long investigative pieces. I didn't really care. But boy, oh boy, I turned to the theater pages, you know, and I would read Michael Feingold and Michael Musto and maybe Deborah Jowett for, as I said before, I don't really care about dance. But you know, that entertainment section, and it became so important, by the way, in the 90s and aughts, when major newspapers were cutting back all their arts coverage and the amount of theater and off-Broadway and off that would get covered, and you could turn to the Village Voice and see reviews of shows that weren't being covered anymore in hard copy papers. And then money, Barbie strips away the hard copy magazine. So now, okay, fine, everything's on the web. I get it. He made a brilliant move in hiring my friend Alan Scherstuhl to write film reviews and be the film editor. Yeah, didn't help. So now, after 2 years of being online only, or 1 year, he said this week that he's killing the paper. It's done. He's fired half the staff of The Voice, and then he's keeping on just a few people, essentially to codify the archives that they have, because they've got 63 years of people like R. Crumb, who did comics, Jay Hoberman, Nat Hentoff, if you remember him, Feingold, just Mailer, Andrew Saris on film, Ezra Pound, anti-Semite son of a bitch, but he wrote, apparently, for the Village Voice back in the early days. So there's a website, I guess, to curate and to keep going and have all the old stuff available, which is great, which is important. I'm glad he's doing that. And what can you say? New York Press did the same thing several years ago as well. You know, they cut back and they turned almost into a pamphlet. And I think New York Press still has a website where they still post new stuff. Whether anybody's being paid, whether anybody reads it, I have no freaking clue. But it hurts the heart of what has happened to newspapers in this country. And this idea that, the web model, so you don't have to pay jobbers to go and do ink and for newsprint and pay these drivers to go and put it on newsstands and put it in stores, and you don't have to pay subscription people, to deal with having to coordinate when things land on people's lawns or when they're mailed to people. It's just get a website. There's not much overhead, right? And just pay your writers, right? And pay your advertising people who bring in advertising. That is the model. That is how all business is working now. And yet even that couldn't make a go of it. Couldn't keep the Village Voice going. He was trying to find another buyer. Nobody wanted to touch it. Previous owners have included Leonard Stern. And did you know that Rupert Murdoch owned the Village Voice? Talk about a craven individual. Rupert Murdoch will go where the money is. So if it's a left-wing newspaper and he thinks he can make a go of it, Rupert Murdoch will take it on. The man who is Fox News, the man who is the New York Post, right? Well, Roger Ailes was Fox News, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, co-founded in 1955 by Dan Wolfe and Norman Mailer and some other folks, farewell to the Village. See, this should have a week-long funeral on television. MSNBC, at least, and CNN and some other places, they should be doing documentaries about this as well. Not to belittle John McCain's contribution, but this should require some reflection and remembrance and some real thoughts about where journalism is going in the 21st century. So we played one voice to say farewell to the Village Voice. And hey, I have my issues with them too. I wasn't always with them politically. I certainly didn't agree with their stance sometimes on Israel. And I remember writing a couple of times to then theater editor and partially main editor Ross Whetstone, trying to review theater for them. And never got a response from him, not interested. So, I even gave the Village Voice a couple of fuck yous a time or two. But still, kind of sad to see them go. The Voice. Anyway, my voice is going. It's almost 10 to 1 Mountain Time here in Greeley, Colorado, at the University of Northern Colorado, where every week, just about, we do Greeley Crimes and Old Times, Dave's Big Dictionary, Inside Broadway, Colorado Limerick of the Damned, Rabbi Sol's Rabbinical Reflections, Storytime. You never know what you're going to hear every week on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the Screen. So, I will remind you again that, well, first of all, I want to thank again Carl Gottlieb for being in the Daverhood. Find out more about him by going to his Facebook page. It's carl.gottlieb.3. Carl Gottlieb 3 on Facebook. And that's the real Carl Gottlieb, the screenwriter, the Jaws guy. So you can buy his books, find out what he's up to. Carl Gottlieb, and we thank him so much for being in the Daverhood. Thank you also to Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Find out more about him by going to shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T. Shalomdammit.com. That is where you can read his sermons, his rabbinical reflections, and hear them too. You can also see 10 episodes of his wonderful TV show, Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Sol Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour, although they were a half hour. I think they're great. They're all there at his website, as is the long version of his one-man show, Shalom Dammit. It's all at shalomdammit.com. And thank you so much to Rabbi Sol. Thank you to my darling, adorable, and wonderful wife, Joyce, for spending the first hour or so in the Daverhood with me and for helping Spudward Armuro into his important potato costume. And yes, I bring up potatoes one last time, because again, a reminder, Dave's Gone By will be preempted next Saturday, September 8th, because Potato and I, and my wife Joyce, will be at Potato Day here in Greeley, Colorado. I invite you to come down. I'll be walking around. I will be fairly noticeable. My wife may actually be wearing this shirt. She looks a lot better in it than I do. So she'll be there, I'll be there, ketchup and potatoes will be there as well. It's from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. We tend to go early in the day when it's cooler out and stay about an hour or two. But oh my, Potato Day Greeley. So in honor of that, and in honor of my having to skip a week of my beloved program, let's play the great Small Potatoes. And if you've never seen that documentary, you owe it to yourself with their song, Potato Train and Gone By.
Potato train coming to town. Potato train.
I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll see you at Potato Day and Gone By.